To see you all today. Really good. Right, I'm just looking at where everyone is all over the place. Let's have a look. We've got Epsom. Do drop in the chat where you are, guys, so we get a feel for who's joining us and where you are in the world. Some familiar faces I can see. We've got Nottinghamshire, we've got Inverness, Datchet, just down the road from me. Terry, I'm in Ascot, Kent. Oh, we've got Aberdeen. Wow. So we've got lots and lots. Everyone in the UK though, so far. I'm sure that's going to change. Let's see, where else have we got? Liverpool. Okay, great. Who's in Liverpool? Carol's in Liverpool. Louise is in Kingston. Hello, Mark. Mark's in Henley. Cara's in Bournemouth. Not very sunny down there today, I'm sure. Well, it's very nice to see you all. Welcome to the totally free for you 4 hours of Virtual Breakup Recovery Retreat. Now, I wanted to put this on because I know that January is a really tough month, right? Who's having a tough month? Just put in the chat why, if this is a challenging month, because New Year's resolutions, we all love a New Year's resolution, but really by now they tend to be fading if we're honest with ourselves, right? Who's still going to the gym as much as they promised they would, and who's still eating healthily and all the other things. So that's why I wanted to do this session for you, to give you a massive boost for January, but also to give you momentum to move forwards. Because for those of you that listen to my podcast, Heartbreak, you'll know I'm always talking about we control the remote control to our brain. Okay, and that's what we're going to try and show you today. We're going to share some tips. We're going to share some advice. But what I would love for you today is to take away lots of information that you can implement right away in your life to get immediate changes. That's the kind of coaching that I'm all about. That's what my amazing coaches are also joining us today. They're going to help with as well. And we've also got some incredible guests. So as you may have seen, we have the Midlife Mentors coming up. We also, James and Claire Davis, have anyone seen them? They're phenomenal. They're going to be talking about health and wellness and well-being, but also how to get the most out of life and how to change things. If you're stuck in a rut, maybe they're going to help us change direction and get excited about life again and get some more motivation. And then we have the amazing Natalie Page. Now, Natalie is incredible. I don't know if anyone here has heard Natalie speak before or follows her campaign that she has, #the court said. She's big on Twitter. She is phenomenal. Now, she's joining me to talk about if you're having a challenge with the family court and you're coming out of a toxic relationship. Now, if anyone is coming out of a toxic relationship, maybe drop a Y in the chat just so we know how many of you are in that situation, because I know most of my clients are, and it's a very different process, divorcing somebody who is difficult, abusive, so yeah, I know there's going to be lots of whys coming in because it's really, really common. But the thing to know, guys, is you're not alone. Okay, so Natalie's going to be on a bit later, so do make sure if you're putting a Y in, Natalie, really have got to watch that because she's phenomenal. And she's going to give us lots of advice how to navigate the family court. So I'm going to be putting her on the spot and asking exactly what the pitfalls are with the current system. Some of you will know, for me, I'm not a massive fan of the family court system. So we're going to shine some light so that you're empowered so you can take control yourself and avoid some of those pitfalls. And then we have later on about 4 o'clock, Suzanne Bernie is going to be joining us. Now, Suze is stylist to the stars. She's worked with so many different famous celebrities, but she's brilliant at helping you boost your mood with what you're wearing. Okay, some really simple tips to change how you're feeling. When you want to just stay in your tracksuit, she's going to give us some tips to get us motivated to get ready to go out that front door and feel good. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of fun as well. And I have 3 of my accredited breakup and divorce coaches who are going to be starring alongside. And I'd like to just invite them all on now to introduce themselves to you. They've trained with me. They are part of my accredited breakup divorce coaches, and there's a lot of my coaches on here, so I'll say hi to you all as we go around. But the 3 coaches who are going to be helping me today, we have Hayley Copper. Hayley, do you want to say hi?
Hi guys. So my name's Hayley. I am, as Sara said, one of her breakup and divorce coaches. I'm currently working on the Master Practitioners Programme as well. I'm on a mission to change everyone's attitudes towards divorce and breakups and help you realise that this doesn't have to be a life sentence. It can actually be the best thing that's ever happened to you and help you really transform your life. So I look forward to working with you through the session today. Hi.
Thanks, Hayley. And we also have Jenny. She's joining us today. Where's Jenny?
Hi everybody. Welcome. So I'm Jenny. I'm one of Sara Davidson's elite coaches, gone through her program as well. And I work with both men and women who are stepping into their next chapter following retirement. And I enable you to shift your focus, mindset and energy to make practical decisions in your breakup and divorce with authenticity, ease and grace.
I'm Jenny. I'm going to try and spotlight you, but Hayley, I couldn't find
can't get rid of me.
That's just you. So right, and let's see if we can find Sara. Sara's on here too.
Hi everyone, I'm Sara Woodward. Good to be here today and to meet you all. I went through my own divorce 15 years ago now, and I stayed stuck for a really long time. And I know that if I'd had access to divorce coaching, it would have made a massive difference for me. And that's why I trained with Sara to be a divorce coach. So I support you through your breakup to help you let go of all the destructive thoughts you have, to get unstuck and to help you rediscover who you are outside of your relationship so that you can feel happier and stronger than ever before. And I do that using positive psychology.
Yeah, thank you. Jenny, do you want to just come on back on and say hi so we can get you spotlighted as well? Where is she?
I'm here.
hello. Great. Well, thanks for coming on. Now, guys, if you would like, these guys are going to be running a session for you later. They're going to be running at 3 o'clock. They're going to be taking a question and deep diving into it and giving their thoughts. And you're going to be interacting with them in a poll as well. So watch out for that at 3 o'clock. They're going to be taking that. If you would like some more help with them, so maybe you would like to deep dive, because obviously today, guys, we're going to give you as much as we can in 4 hours, and we're going to jam a packet full. I can tell you there's so much information we're going to be sharing with you. But obviously we can't tailor everything to your specific scenario. So if you think, gosh, you know what, I'd really like some more help and support, then I think Jenny's just dropped in the chat. There's some links there. You can book a free call with each of the coaches there. You can decide who you'd like to work with and get a free call with them to find out how they can help you with your personal situation and take it to the next level. So that's going to be cool. They're coming up 3 to 3:15. And then for those of you that have questions we haven't managed to answer, at 5 o'clock, the coaches, Jenny, Sara and Hayley, will be on at 5 running a breakup session. So you can get your questions answered there. So any questions that I haven't managed to answer between 4:30 and 5, they will be picking up at the end. So if you wanted to stay on, they're going to be there giving more advice. Jas is asking, will this be on a replay? I am recording it. So if you have registered, you will get a copy. Okay. Let me just see. Sharon said she was in a toxic relationship, but strangely it was me that ended it. That's good. Okay, yeah, and that happens a lot. Sometimes it just gets too much. Okay, right, guys. Now there is a poll. Let's see if we can. I wanted to ask you a question. So we're going to ask you, what is the hardest thing to cope with after your breakup? I'm going to launch that poll now. Let's see. So what was the hardest thing for you to cope with after your breakup? Okay, can you see that poll? Yeah, there we go. Right, okay. So was it heartbreak or trusting again? Was it fear of the future or was it single parenting? Ah, interesting, guys. Interesting. Can you see? So basically heartbreak or trusting again at the moment. Oh, it's switching around. 32%, fear of the future, 53%. Single parenting, 22%, 21%. Okay. Yeah, really interesting. There's so many things, aren't there, that affect us when we're going through a breakup. And I really wanted to get a feel here for who we've got listening, because I want to make sure that we tailor this. So heartbreak's obviously a big thing. Fear of the future, obviously a big thing. And we're going to cover fear of the future a lot with our guests coming up, because we're going to show you how you can take your control back and move forward. But that's really interesting to see how that works. So heartbreak and trusting again kind of go together really, you know, because if you've been heartbroken, if you've been betrayed, then obviously trusting again and letting yourself be vulnerable can be tough. So let's dive into that to start off with. So for those of you who are heartbroken, if you're heartbroken right now, I'm going to give you some tips. Some people who here are saying it's very close between heartbreak and single parenting. Yeah, loneliness and the idea that I would have been misrepresented by my ex, as May says. Yeah, just filed for divorce today, feeling crappy. Well, you're in the right place, Jill. You're in the right place. Okay, so what else have we got? Having to keep weekly contact due to the other parent having contact with a toddler. Yeah, that can be really difficult, especially if it was a toxic relationship or your ex is moving on a lot quicker than you. Obviously, that can be really hard too, right? So we've got to bear all these things in mind. All right, so I think the poll's finished up. Heartbreak, 33%, fear of the future, 46%, single parenting, 21%. Okay, right, let's share results. Okay, right. So given that, I want to today give you as many tools as I can to help you wherever you are in the process. So let's start with heartbreak. I know a lot of you, are going through a really tough time right now with your breakup, and that's normal. Okay, unfortunately, and I don't know if you know this, but divorce is known as the second most traumatic life experience we go through after death of a loved one. The second most. So that's big, right? I mean, it is really a traumatic event that we go through. So of course there's going to be a roller coaster of different emotions you go through. But you remember, if you were on at the beginning where I was talking about, we control the remote control to our brain. Okay, we control that. Now I know we're not born with a manual, are we? So we're not sure, like, okay, but how? And quite often we learn coping strategies. We learn how to manage situations from watching maybe our parents or people around us, maybe people at school, teachers, other people that influence our lives. We learn what to do and sometimes what not to do, right? So we've picked these strategies up unconsciously, but we're left running them. So have a think about those things, guys. What is it that you do right now? So if some of you I know are feeling heartbroken, and we'll come on to trusting again in a moment. But if you're heartbroken, there are certain things that you can do to dial down the heartbreak. Okay, I'm going to share them with you now because I want you to get these and I want you to go at that and test them today. Okay, because I promise you, these make a massive difference and they work immediately. No counseling for years. This is going to work today. Okay, but you've got to commit and you've got to at least try them. Okay, so first of all, heartbreak. Now, I think it's mainly women on here. I'm looking to see there are some men, but not many. So a lot of us women, generalizing, but we talk a lot about our breakups, don't we? So maybe, who's done this before? Put a Y in the bottom. If maybe you go to the hairdresser and they say, well, how's your day? And then you tell them, oh my goodness, this has happened. Yeah, maybe like, yeah, this has happened and this has happened. And then maybe you go and see a friend you haven't seen for a while. So then they get the next installment. Yeah, as Emma was saying, yeah. And then, then you go somewhere else and then you tell the story again because, well, you haven't seen them for a while. And then maybe even people you see a lot, they need the next installment. We're like constantly living in a EastEnders TV drama, right? Well, what's the next installment? But what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what that means is that we're reliving the pain because our brain doesn't know the difference between going through that story right now as if it's happening right now or it happening in the past. So what it's doing every time you're telling your story is reconnecting you with that pain. So what we want to do is stop telling our sad story. Now, that's the challenge, okay? Because you can't just stop doing something unless we replace it with something else. So we have to consciously think of something else we can talk about because people are going to want to be good friends to you, or they might just be curious, okay? But whatever their motivation is, they're going to ask you, so what's happening now? And that might be how your friends think is the best way to show up and support you, by asking you, what's going on now for you? Are you okay? What's he done or what's she done now? So they're doing the best thing for you, but by you answering and going back into that loop, do you see how that can keep you stuck and relive the pain? Because your body will be going, oh yeah, well at this point, I know how this feels. I get really upset. Or maybe I get like heart palpitations. Maybe I feel a bit sick, or maybe I cry. So you go back and you're re-anchoring to all those negative emotions. So we want to stop that and change that for something else. So when our friends come to us and say, so how's it going? You can go, well, you know what I'm going to do is and then you share with them something that you're planning in the future. Okay. Something you're going to do differently. Even if it's, look, I've realized that every time I tell my story, it makes me sad. And you know what? I don't want to look to the past anymore. I'm going to start looking on the future. So I'm launching a project called, whatever your name is. So Sara Future or whatever, Sara Project. And I invite you to help me think of some things that could go on my breakup bucket list. Breakup bucket list, guys, is a fabulous thing. If you haven't done one yet, get to it. Okay. This is a list of everything you can do now that you couldn't do when you were in your relationship. Now, for me, I wasn't allowed to have bright colored nail varnish. And if any of you watch my videos, you'll see that every single day now I have bright colored nail varnish because I love it. And it was something I loved before I got into my toxic relationship. And it's something that I still love during, but it wasn't okay to do it. So, those of you that have been in toxic relationships will know we make compromises, which then become sacrifices, and they're quite difficult to get out of. So a breakup bucket list can be painting your nails pink, but it could also be learning a new skill or spending time with friends you haven't spent much time with. Maybe your ex didn't really like them or they were too far away. Maybe going on a trip somewhere they would never have liked to go. Maybe just cooking different food that you actually really like, but you couldn't have done because your ex didn't like it. So, think of things for your breakup bucket list that you can do now and get your friends in on this project. So now when you connect with friends, you're asking them, right, I need to move forward rather than updating them on everything that's happened in the past. Do you see the difference? Because what we focus on is what we're going to see more of. Now, who here can put a Y in the chat? If any of you have ever thought about something, for example, let's do a game, right? So what I want you to do is look around the room you're in now and notice everything that's green. Okay, look around the room. What's green? Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. What's green? What's green? What's green? Is there anything over there? Anything over there? Okay. Right, now stop. Now, without looking, tell me everything in the room that's blue. Now, because we focused on what's green, we filter out the other stuff. You might be able to come up with a few things, but you won't have as many as you did with your list of green, right? And that's what I mean about focus. What you focus on is what you're going to see more of in life. So if you're focusing on telling your sad story, and that's not to take away from how sad your story is, guys, because I know it's sad. I've been there. I've done that ugly crying on the bathroom floor and the heartbreak and the not knowing what's coming next. That heartbreak or that pain of that ending, whether it's heartbreak just because of the loss of your life or heartbreak because you're scared of what's to come, or whether because you're still in love with your ex in some form, whether that's an addictive kind of love or just a real heartbreak, that is devastating. But if we're focusing on that all the time, that's going to keep us stuck. So that's one of the tools to dial down, well, a few of them, to dial down the pain from being heartbroken and enable you to start moving forward. But the good thing is you get to recruit your own friends in to help you move forward. Now, I've just seen in the chat there that somebody said, Sharon said she keeps it to herself. She doesn't overshare, which is another, that again in itself can be difficult, because if people don't know what's going on for you, then they can't show up to support you necessarily. And also stuffing down emotions, stuffing down feelings means it's still there. So you're dragging that forward. We have to process it. We have to go through the processing. So there is another tool that I'll share with you here, which is called the loss cycle, which we all go through. It's the same. I don't know if anyone here has ever lost a loved one. That grieving process is very, very similar. Like I said at the beginning, it is divorce is known as the second most traumatic life experience we go through after death of a loved one. And I've been on the radio recently where we were debating, actually, is it more difficult? Because in some cases, when you still love your ex and they're moving on with somebody else, that's got another double-edged sword there of having to watch them be happy and move on, you being on your own. So again, there's a debate there. But the loss cycle is important if you're going through a breakup right now, because it gives you clarity. Now, when you're in the midst of a breakup, there's little clarity, right? It's overwhelmed. It's all a bit of a mess. There's so much going on. But what I want to give you now is, and if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, take notes, guys. This is going to really help you. It's called the loss cycle, and it's going to show you your path from where you've been and where's yet to go. Because whether we like it or not, unfortunately, there is no magic one to take away all the pain. I can definitely help you, and my coaches can definitely help you dial down that pain. But clarity gives you power, because you start to disassociate a bit just from the overwhelm and see specifically where you are, where you've been, and where you've yet to go. So there's 5 stages in the loss cycle, and maybe Jenny, if you don't mind just popping them in the chat as we go. So the first stage is denial. So this is where you stick your head in the sand and you're like, it's not happening. Did anyone do that? I had a client who actually, I think I wrote about it in my book, Uncoupling, actually, if you've read it. She had a situation where she found her ex came back from a night out, and, you know, classic story. She found a receipt in his jacket pocket, but it wasn't a bar bill. It was a receipt for Ann Summers. Now, Ann Summers is, for those of you who don't know, is an underwear, like a lingerie, like a sexy underwear shop. Okay. And she was a bit surprised because she was more of a M&S girl, I suppose, rather than a Nat Summers girl. So she was like, okay. But it was coming up to Christmas, and she thought, well, maybe he's bought me a Christmas gift early. Again, in her heart, her instinct was going, he doesn't really plan ahead, especially like 4 weeks ahead. So unlikely, but so anyway, she didn't say anything. So she just carried on as normal. She didn't even tell her friends. So that's really, really tough. Okay. So she kept it in, didn't process it. And then Christmas came and went. And guess what? She didn't get the underwear. A bit like in Love Actually. Remember you seen that, where she knew he had a necklace and he didn't give it to her. And then her birthday wasn't far after. So instead of thinking, I've got to face up to reality here, she denied it again. She said, well, maybe he forgot and he's going to give it to me for my birthday. Anyway, that never happened. But she never even spoke to anyone about it, which, Sharon, I think the name was, is really normal, because it's a way of us protecting ourselves. It's almost like when we speak it out loud, it makes it more real. And when you're not ready to face that, when you're not really emotionally sturdy enough to open that up, sometimes our body says no. Our body says, no, no, no. And so we don't talk about it, and we don't connect with other people. Okay. But when we do, we start to process those emotions. So denial is the first stage. Then we go to anger. And this is where the curve increases. So there's more energy, there's more passion here as you get more angry. Now, some of you, I don't know if any of you are like me, I don't really do angry very often. And even when my ex left me, I didn't really get angry. In fact, my dad was going, will you get bloody angry? I was like, oh God, I'm just so sad and more frustrated and more stressed, right? So have a look at yourself, right? Because some of us have different ways. Some of us go to rage really easily, vent it out and can move on. Others of us can't do that as easy. Well, sometimes the rage, you get stuck in the rage. So we all have our different, very personalized way of doing things. Okay. So we really want to get clarity. So in order to help yourself move through these things, then you need to identify specifically what your personal patterns are, because you might be someone that does get angry pretty quickly, whereas I'm not. So again, we need to really identify what that is for you so that we can help you manage that. Okay. So getting clarity on our behavior. So moving it from unconscious to conscious is really, really important to empower you to get to know who you are right now, to get to know who you are coming out of that relationship, which will help you with that on the poll, fear of the future. If you start to rediscover who you are and really deep dive and use this as an opportunity to learn about yourself, what makes you angry, what makes you happy, those kind of things, and that's going to really open up how your life moves forward. So that second stage is anger, whatever that shows up for you. The third stage is bargaining. Now, bargaining is where you will do anything to stay with the status quo as you know it. So, you know, maybe, for example, you tried to save your relationship by being the perfect wife or being the perfect husband. So you start cooking dinner and you start wearing more makeup and you start making an effort. We start going to the gym, we start doing things to keep the relationship. Because as human beings, we don't like change as a rule. We're not comfortable with change. So ironically, we'll even prefer to stay with a situation that we know is painful, that we know hurts us, when we know we feel rejected or unloved, or you don't love them as much and you're not happy, whatever the reason, we're happy to stay because we don't know what that looks like. And if we don't know what that looks like, we're just going to stay here. And I'm interested, actually, guys, and you know, in the chat, just let me know, does the future, for those of you especially who put fear of the future as your answer for the poll, does the future look like a blank canvas, or is it more of a black hole? I want to know, because I can help you with those things. Okay, if you're stuck and you're scared of the future, does it look like a blank canvas or a black hole? Okay, because if it's a black hole, we need to start shining some light in there. And if it's a blank canvas, we need to throw as much color on there as possible. And that's what coaching with us does, by the way, guys. This is how we work. This is how I train my coaches to do this. But yeah, so, and that's normal. That's really normal. As you can see, black hole, blank canvas, black hole. Like, you're all in the same situation. You're not alone. This is really normal. But again, by getting more clarity about how things are for you, it's going to empower you to take your control back and start moving forward. So yes, so phase 1, denial. Phase 2, anger. Phase 3, bargaining. Phase 4, now this is everyone goes through this. Phase 4 is depression. And that's where it's like dips down. So the curve goes up to the anger and then comes down, and then you've got, thanks Jenny, she's writing it there. So you've got depression at the bottom. And that's where your energy's low. Maybe you're all cried out this stage, but you're just low. Okay. And yeah, guys, do drop in the chat where you are as well, because that will give us a feel as well for where you are on that roller coaster. As Andrea says, it's a roller coaster slipping in and out of the stages. And that's really normal. Okay. And you have to go through this process. Now, one of the things I see a lot in my coaching clinic with my clients is they'll say, well, I've been to the GP and the doctor and I'm depressed. Now, of course, you're bloody depressed. Okay, you've just met up with someone that you really cared about, and even if they weren't particularly kind to you, your lives were entwined. So it's going to be a difficult time in your life. So it is normal to go through the depression. The important thing, guys, and I really want you to get this, the important thing is that it's not forever. It is part of the process. It's part of the grieving process of losing that loved one. In order, you have to grieve it to let it go, to move forward. Okay, if you don't go through that, you're not going to heal. But it certainly doesn't have to last forever. It is a finite period of time. You go in and you come back up the curve. If you find you're getting stuck there, it's because, again, of either the blank canvas or probably more of the black hole. Okay, and so that's where we can help you power through that. And I'm going to give you the tools, some of them today, to help you. But just be aware that depression curve is normal. There's nothing wrong with you. There'd be something wrong with you if you weren't upset. Okay, so it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry, but we're going to have to give you tools to pull yourself back out. Okay, because we want you to feel that pain, because you've got to let it out. But when you feel the lows, it enables you to feel the highs. Okay, and you will get there. So that's the lowest part of the curve. And then we come back up to what's known as the 5th and final stage, which is acceptance. And that's where you've taken the rose-tinted glasses off and you're seeing it, warts and all, the relationship, saying, right, I don't want it back, or I know it's probably not going to come back. So I'm where I am. I've accepted it. And now it's time to move on. But that's where a lot of my clients hit a wall. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. And from acceptance, it's very easy to slide back down. Slide back down, maybe to depression, maybe back to anger, oscillating around. It's not, you don't work through all in sequence and then out the other side. Unfortunately, some people do. And if you're working with a coach or someone who can power you through, but it's very normal to slide up and down until you get the clarity of, right, okay, I've got to acceptance. I now need to power through. And that's what this is about today. It's just giving you tools to help you power through. Because January is a tough month. If you're in the UK, which most of you are, I know we've got someone in Croatia and other places too, but it's dark, it's grey, the nights come in very early, by 4:30 it's dark. It can be a little bit sad and depressing at times, right? So again, if you're going through a breakup, Plus you put all the anxiety with the pandemic and the rules or the not rules or whatever's going on. So there's so much confusion, so much uncertainty that we've got to layer that on top of the breakup as well. No wonder this is tough. Okay, but the good news is there are lots of things you can do to power through, to start shining a light into that black hole and start throwing color on that canvas. Okay, it's really, really important though that you make a note of this. You have to step up. It comes from you. You have a decision to make. And I know a lot of you have already made it, which is why you're on this call today. But it gets to a point where this life is your responsibility. And I know when we get married, you make our vows, but ultimately the only person responsible for you is you. Okay. So at this point, we have to start taking our control back. Every time you blame your ex, every time you say, well, I can't do that because, every time you do that, you're giving your power away. And you might be justified. They might have done so many horrible things to you that, of course, your self-confidence is low, your self-esteem is low, you've lost your mojo, your sparkle, of course. But it gets to that turning point where you have the choice. You either step up and you do something about it, or you stay where you are. Now, if you stay where you are, you're dragging this forward with you every step of the way. Okay, and you've got almost like a grey cloud over you. Now, I know with toxic exes, slightly different, because post-separation abuse is often worse than actually the abuse you suffer in a relationship. So I get that. And that's why I've invited Natalie Page on, because she's going to help me deep dive into this, because I get it. I've been there. I know. Okay, but you can still do it. Okay, you can still do this, even if you're coming out of a toxic relationship. So the thing is, you have to step up and make a decision. Either you carry on dragging this with you, or you step up and you do things differently. It's not always going to be easy. Sometimes you're going to have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you're going to say, I know Sara said I should write my breakup bucket list or do 5-star jumps or do something different right now, but I just want to get into bed and pull the duvet over my head and eat crisps. I know that's going to happen. But I want you to be consciously aware of it. So when it happens, you can then make a choice. And what we want to do is put some things in place for you so that you can change the things you're doing. Okay, in order to move through this and come out the other side, to throw the color on the blank canvas, or to shine the light into the black hole, whatever it is for you, it's going to take some action from you. Okay, now, small steps is the way forward. Small steps. So working out what you enjoy, what you love, what lights you up, sometimes it's going to be hard. Who knows what they enjoy? If you've got things that you enjoy, pop them in the chat. Is there anything that you'd like to do more of in your life right now? For this year, 2022, what would you like to do more of? Let's have a look. Haley says, make your future more exciting than the past. Yeah. Spend time focusing on you and not looking back. Absolutely. Angelina says, I call my ex the was band. It has helped me. I love it. Now, again, I have a top tip for your ex's name, right? So exes, their names, names carry so much emotion, don't they? I don't know if you've ever then bumped into somebody else, you meet someone new and they've got the same name as your ex. It just makes you sick. You think, I can't even speak to you. I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a normal reaction in a lot of cases, unless you have an amicable relationship with your ex, which is great if you do. But a lot of us find that a little bit hard. Okay. And we certainly never want to date someone with the same name as your ex. But again, there's so much emotion attached to a name. So the trick here is, especially if you're going through a divorce process, if it's been very difficult, again, this really works. Instead of using your ex's name, so say first name is Robert or Rachel, okay, so the name begins with R. Instead of calling them Robert or Rachel, we only refer to them by their first initial. Okay, so R. But it's not a capital R. No. It's a teeny weeny little R, okay? So whether you're talking, whether you're typing or texting, whatever it is, you just use their first initial, lowercase. And you get your lawyers to do the same, because there's nothing worse than getting an email with their name in it. It just hits you, right? So small letters. Small letters. And what this does is it actually shrinks their significance in your life. Okay, again, it's a tool that can dial down some of those negative emotions. And if you can dial them down from, say, 10 out of 10 to even an 7 or an 8 out of 10, that frees you up to feel so much better. Okay, it makes such a big difference. You'll be able to do things that you couldn't do before. So it's not huge leaps in the first few weeks, it's small steps. But small steps over, say, 4 or 5 weeks is a huge leap forward. So try some of these tools. Go out and try some of these tools. Okay, I really want you to embrace them, test them out and see how they work for you. Get your friends in on it too. Okay, let's see what's going on here. What do you like doing? Dancing in the kitchen. Yay, travel. Yes, someone else. Oh, yes, Jenny's saying about using the small letters. Yes, I love my open water swimming. Oh, yeah, I love that too. Eating healthier food and horse riding, Suzanne says. Yes, lovely. That's a good idea, Jenny. Yes, everyone likes that idea. Salsa dancing, exercise. You know, I know a lot of you might be thinking, I'm too overwhelmed to do exercise. And I'm with you. If you're in the throes at the beginning, you're in fight or flight anyway. So hardcore exercise may trigger worse emotions in some cases, okay? But we've got to get you moving. We've got to get you out because, again, it dials down those negative emotions and it frees you up. The stronger your body is, the healthier your body is, the better decisions you're going to make. And let's face it, when you're going through a divorce, you're going to be making a lot of serious decisions for your future, right? So if you're in overwhelm and panic all the time and you're staying in, you're not getting any sunlight or fresh air, that's going to have an impact. So, okay, you may not be a gym bunny, but if you could just go for a walk, even around the block for 20 minutes, that will make a difference. So start small and build it up. Yeah, you might find that you fall in love with swimming again, or that, you know, you want to go salsa dancing. Find a friend that salsa dances. We've got one here who's salsa dancing here. Leron, she salsa dances. So you see, find other people that want to do the same things as you, or just go try it. Wear more color. Yes, Jess. Susie's going to help us with that. Eat different foods, going to the theatre. So I love it when we share ideas because it helps inspire other people as well, if you're not sure. Self-care and focus on oneself, Anisha says. That's a great one. Now, self-care, what I've discovered with my clients is that self-care can be quite tough because if you've been in a relationship where you've been looking after your partner, or maybe you're a mum, or maybe you're working and you're doing all these different things, right? Or maybe you're a dad. It's constant looking after other people. So when it comes to self-care, the challenge is it can feel, instead of self-care, it can feel selfish. And it's not selfish. And this is the way I show my clients to turn it around, because they're like, well, if I take time out to go and have a massage or to go for a long walk, it means I'm not doing this, this, and this, which might help other people. The challenge is if you're not okay, then you're not going to be at your best to help other people. And if you want to be at your best to help other people, to show up for your kids, to show them how to cope when tough things happen, then you've got to be okay for you. So actually it's selfish not to do self-care. Okay, we've got to flip it around in our heads, because you won't be able to show up as well for others if you're not looking after yourself. It's like the old thing on the planes, and they say, put your mask on you before you help your kids. It feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? You're thinking, oh my God, no, I want to help my kid first. But actually, if you're not okay, then you can't help your kid. So this is the same thing. We need to look after ourselves. So again, it's really for the color on the canvas, or shining the light in the black hole. Let's identify what that is for you. What is self-care? For some of you, it might be just a bath with some bubbles and a glass of red wine. Susan's nodding away there. But for others of us, it might be something like going out for a drink with a friend that likes to go dancing to 2 in the morning. It really doesn't matter. But whatever it is for you, we've got to tap into that. So writing a list, guys, of what it is for you, writing it down, but not just doing that. We've then got to plan it. Who do you need to speak to make that a reality? Who do you need to say, right, guys, I'm doing this. Hold me accountable, because I'm going to spend more time with this person. I'm going to book the travel. I'm going to the theatre trips, I love them, but which theatre trip? The play that goes wrong is the last one I saw. That's so funny. If you want to go for a laugh, you will laugh non-stop. It's actually a really good one. There's the play that goes wrong, I think it's called. And it's showing in London at the moment. It's absolutely hilarious. So if you want to go and do something that makes you laugh, then say to a friend, right, I'm going to get tickets for this. You're coming with me. I promise you, you will laugh. It's hilarious. Start a business. Somebody says, yes, I like that idea. Going away on trips. Let's have a look. What else? This strategy is a game changer. This really works. I call my ex Daz, as he always hated if anyone called him that. Look, that's good, but okay, I'm going to just throw it out there. You're still engaging energetically with him on that. What I want is them to become neutral, just like zap them to nothing. Right? You can call, like my dad's, my ex's name begins with a G. My dad calls him A. It's got nothing to do with shortening the name. But my dad's got a lot of, you know, I mean, like obviously someone that was unkind to your kids, you're always going to think, it doesn't do it anymore. But in the early days, so you know, you don't want that negative intensity attached to anything. Okay, you don't. You want to just have them as neutral in your life. Because if you're exchanging, you know, and it comes up arsehole on the phone, you know, I've got clients who look, that's what I have. Again, you're connecting with that negativity and it's smacking you in the face every time. If it just comes up little R or whatever it is, it just makes a difference, right? It just helps you dial down. I want you to be back in control. I don't want you to think about that so much anymore. And the beauty of having things you're planning, like going to the theatre or doing a trip or seeing some friends that you never really connected with for a long time because maybe you never had time before, what that's going to do is throw some colour on that canvas. It's going to start to shine a light in the hole so you can see what it's going to look like. You know, if I start going out with friends, it's not such a dark hole anymore because I get to hang out with that friend I haven't seen for a while. Or I'm going to go to the theatre. So I've got that planned in 2 months' time. So that's not so dark anymore. Oh, okay. And then I'm going to take up salsa dancing. I'm going to book a regular class. So now there's a lot more light out there. It's not just, I don't know what happens there. I only know this. You're lighting this up. There's lots more options. There's lots more color on there. There's lots of light on there because it's going to help you get your sparkle back because there's all things that are going to help you. Okay. We need to plan to have some fun because fun is going to be the antidote to some of this pain. Unfortunately, we can't take it away. If you're in the middle of the divorce process, you're going to have to work your way through that. But you can get there and these things will speed it up. They will help you get through that acceptance into living the life you've always wanted to live. And I'm living proof that you can be so much happier. Yeah, and my coaches, I mean, like Hayley's story is amazing. Jenny's story is amazing. Sarah's story is amazing. Overcoming such pain and then turning that into your power by saying, this does not define me. I may have the emotional scars, and I'm sure you guys do too, right? But they will not define me. Screw you, or watch this was my mantra during my divorce. It's like, screw you, no way you're going to destroy me. Watch this, right? And then I rebuilt my life. Now, for those of you who said, I want to cover this about being a single parent. Being a single parent can be very daunting, okay? It can be, it just is. When you've had shared responsibility and then it falls on you for the time that you have your child, it can be very daunting. But I tell you, it is one of the most amazing things. There's another tool I use called Flip It. And it's basically where you find the good in things, even if there doesn't seem to be any good in it at all. So the question would be, so what is good about this? What is good about being a single parent? And one of my clients says to me, Sara, there's nothing good. It's just stress and too much pressure and I'm financially, it's a strain. And I know, but if there was one good thing, and you're focusing your mind on finding one good thing, the quality of your connection with your child, the ability to influence values and morals and beliefs while they're in your home, the way you want it, without having to compromise for anyone. You know, being the rock for your child, that you are the one there that they come to. There are so many benefits of being a single parent. Yes, the juggling act can be hard, but again, part of your plan is to build up your support team. Who is around you who can help you? You know, some of you might be lucky to have parents or friends that can help out. Others, you maybe not so much. But there are groups and support systems out there. So how can you tap into those? How can you find people where maybe you could say, look, I'll have your kid on a Friday, you have my kid on a Thursday. You know, it's about thinking outside the box. Again, taking your control back is really important. We don't want to be reliant on your ex. I know a lot of people will be having challenges. I see this in my DMs, especially on Instagram, where their ex lets them down all the time with childcare. And actually, that can be really tough too. So how do you take your control back is a really empowering question in those scenarios. Not my ex is an arse. I mean, yes, they may well be, but that's not the question. The question to help you turn things around is, what can I do right now that's going to make this easier or better for me? And it might be like one of my recent clients, she had 2 kids, and they had 2 different teams, sports teams they had to be at on the same night. He always used to come pick the son up, take him to football. She used to take the daughter to acting. The challenge was he might or he might not turn up on time, if at all. Now, she didn't want to obviously stop him seeing his kid, but she got another mum to come and pick this. If she was driving past and he hadn't picked the kid up, the kid would go. Dad could still go and turn up and watch and be there and do it. If not, then this mum would drop the kid back, the son back. So again, she was taking control because it helped her. She was never let down. Her son was never let down. So what can you do to take your control back? Another really empowering question. If you find you're asking questions like, what's wrong with me? Why did this happen to me? What if this happens again? Why don't they love me anymore? Those questions are what I call hamster wheel questions. And they keep you stuck, right? They really keep you stuck, going round and round and round and round. What we want to do is shift from, if you ask your brain a disempowering question, you're going to get a disempowering answer, okay? So if you ask yourself, well, what's wrong with me? Your brain's going to go, oh, okay, well, there's this, oh, and don't forget this. And it might be rubbish, right? But it's going to give you a list because you've asked it a question. Your brain is wired to come up with an answer to any question you ask it. So what if you asked it a different question? What's good about this right now? Or what can I do right now to make this better? Or to make me feel better right now? And that might be, I'm just going to take some time out. I'm going to turn my phone off for 5 minutes. Or I'm going to go outside for a walk. Or I'm going to give my kid a hug. Or I'm going to phone my friend. Whatever it is for you, that's what we want to tap into. So you can pull yourself out. Whether it's shifting your focus onto the things you're grateful for. Like you've probably heard that before, right? That gratitude is the antidote to feeling bad. Because if you're focusing your mind on, yes, okay, all this stuff is going on, the divorce, I'm not sure about my finances, I'm not sure about this, being a single parent. But then you focus on, well, I've got my health, or I've got a beautiful daughter, or, you know, the sun's shining today, although it's limited in the UK, I know. But, you know, whatever it is for you, I want you to think about those things because, again, as we talked about before with what you're focusing on, if you can shift your focus, even for a few minutes, it will dial down some of that negative intensity. So let's see, what questions have we got coming? Oh, the single parent thing I wanted to cover as well. Divorce, I know I'm quite controversial in the media about this because I don't believe that divorce damages kids. It doesn't have to. It can do, but it doesn't have to. In fact, it can be a really valuable life lesson for your kids to see that actually sometimes in life, no matter how old they are, whether you've got adult kids or young kids, sometimes in life, the wheels fall off. Sometimes things go horribly wrong. Sometimes you don't get the fairy tale that you signed up to. It's going to happen to our kids. However much we want to wrap them up in bubble wrap and not let them do anything, they're going to get cheated on. Someone's going to let them down. Someone's going to lie to them. Someone's not going to show up for them. They're not going to get into the school or the club they want to get into. It's going to happen. So we need to prepare them for that. And how do we do that? Well, we are their role models. Like it or not, they notice everything, right? Don't they? They notice everything. You think you're having a private conversation, and then a few days later, at a very inappropriate, inopportune time, they'll bring it up in front of whoever's there. But you said this. So they are watching us. They are learning from us. So we have to step up and turn this into a valuable life lesson. Because I tell you, if you're struggling, your kids are going to find it really hard to watch you struggling. If you can show them how you're turning your life around and share with them the tools, you know, look, if I'm feeling sad, here's 5 things. I ask myself, what can I do to cheer myself up? And if it's, I don't know, 5-star jumps or playing Happy by Pharrell or dancing around the kitchen like Jenny, I'm going to do it. And you share this with your kids, whether they're 3 or 25, doesn't matter. You share the tool, right? This cheers me up. So you know how to pick yourself up when you're down. You know that, yes, you could go back to bed, put the duvet over your head and eat crisps. You have that choice. You also have another coping strategy. Another coping strategy that for kids right now, their choice of coping strategy is self-harming, suicide, overeating, drinking, drugs. There's a lot for them to choose from, and we need to give them healthier options, more empowering options fast, because they aren't teaching change your body language to cheer yourself up at school, and they should be. But we can do that. And if we're doing it and we're saying, look, if I smile, it does make me feel better, even though it feels a bit fake to start with. It does dial down those negative emotions just a bit. And then if I put on happy music, even though I really just don't feel like it, it's going to change my mood slightly. If I go for a walk, it's going to help. Teaching your kids these tools is going to make a massive difference to them, because when life doesn't go well for them, they're going to know that they have the power within them to turn things around, because they've seen you do it. And if you're struggling to turn your life around and you have kids, I'm hoping this message is going to help you make that decision, not to carry on as you are and drag that with you, but to step up and make those changes. Because it's not only helping you, it's inspiring your kids and showing them when they get older, or even now in life, when the wheels fall off, it's not the end of the world. They don't have to go down those destructive coping mechanism paths. They have other options. They can do it because they saw you do it. And just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean that's the end of their world. Adversity makes you stronger. If you learn the lessons, you bank them, and you decide to step up and move on. Adversity will make you stronger, guys. Everything you've been through in your life, think about it. All the tough times you've had, you've survived. So we know you can do it because you've done it before, right? This isn't the first horrible thing you've had to endure. So you are a survivor and you have survival techniques. Are they as effective as they could be? Well, that's for you to look at. But there are tools there that will help you turn things around, and you can dig deep and turn your life around. As long as we're learning the lessons, for those of you, especially who've been in toxic relationships, we have to look at why we get into those relationships. Why did you get in? And it's not your fault, by the way. It's not your fault. But why do we stay? And then how do we get out safely? And if you are in danger, by the way, you've got to call the police. There is free support from domestic abuse charities that can help you navigate your way through this. They are free and they're there to support. So, but coming out of those relationships can be hard and takes an adjustment, but you can do it. There is support, there is help, but you can do it. So by taking charge and stepping up, you can turn your life around, okay? And I've given you some tools now with throwing some color on that blank canvas, but also shining a light into that black hole, which can really help you to turn your life around. So questions. Hayley, how are we doing on questions? Are there any questions that I can answer in the last 5 minutes? Let's see.
Have a look.
Here we go. Sara, can I ask you, please, how long did it take you to rise to screw you watch this? That's a very good question. It took me a while, but not that long. My son was 1 when my ex left, and I had to, if you've got young kids at that age, you have to get up and do things. Like if you have a job you have to be at, sometimes if you are, I suppose, lucky enough to have things you have to show up for, it keeps you going. I had to get out of bed. But I think when I probably got to more of the frustration, anger side, and I was like, look, this is not okay. Well, it was a toxic relationship, as many of you will know. And some of the cruel things that were being done and were coming out was so horrific. I was like, okay. It takes a while, though, to rebuild your boundaries to the point to know what is unacceptable behavior. So, if you're struggling with that, it might be that you haven't fully embraced the fact that that was just not okay. Or also that you deserve more. And again, that's another thing. A lot of this is deciding to give yourself permission that it's okay for you to be happy. It's okay for you to let this go. It's okay for you to be out of this and doing your own thing. So again, it's really when you take that decision.
Sara, we had a question in from B. So B says, how do you keep not living reliving the story when the toxicity continues and you need to offload?
Yeah, that's a good question, B. So I mean, like, so for all those scenarios, if you're coming out of a toxic relationship, you need help and support. Again, you need to pick the people who can actually help you. So I hope you're being supported by your local domestic abuse charity. I don't know what country you're in, but the UK is phenomenal with that kind of support. If you don't have anyone at the moment, you can just Google local domestic abuse support in your area. There's no point talking to everybody about it, because especially with toxic relationships, most people won't get it. Most people don't understand. No, I mean, some people should, if it's family professional in the legal world that you're going through, they bloody well should understand it, but it's not compulsory training for them even. But also your friends and family, they won't know unless you've walked in those shoes. It's really hard for anyone to fully grasp it. So you need to only share that story with people that get it, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself mad. Okay. And not, a few friends or whatever, but not everybody. Okay. But you do need support, B. You definitely need support. So whether that's from your local domestic abuse charity or from one of my coaches who are, obviously we're trained in this. I train my coaches in this. So, that you can get support that way, but you can get free support from your local domestic abuse charity, and they're connected into your community as well. So that means they'll know your GPs, they'll know your social services if you need them. You've got the police force, I mean, again, there's varying degrees of capability within all those departments as well, but your local domestic abuse charity will be able to give you the support.
We've also had a question from Tara, and she says, Sara, do you think parents should ensure children don't find out if there was cheating involved?
Sorry, should we ensure? Is that the question? Should
yes.
we ensure? Again, this is a difficult one. I would say, yes, protect the kids. They don't need to know the details. But again, it's got to be age appropriate. And also, we don't badmouth the ex. That's just how it is, okay? Because that's not good for the kids. However, there's a fine line between badmouthing and being honest. And if you're coming out of a toxic relationship, okay, it's very different to an amicable relationship. So if you're coming out of an amicable relationship, you communicate with your ex at what you think is right for the kids given their age. Kids aren't stupid, okay? And lying to kids or making them confused about what may or may not have happened can perpetuate the confusion and them healing from the breakup. Most of the children that I see who are struggling with the breakup of their parents is they don't understand. They're like, I don't get it. Why? Because to them, parents got on well, everyone was great, and they're still amicable and everything's great. So you've got to work that out individually based on your child's personalities, because every child is different. So there isn't one size fits all. With toxic relationships, you definitely don't want to gaslight your own kids, because your ex will be doing that for you anyway. Okay, so you've got to be clear on the truth. And I think there's a fine line between being truthful and, relevant details. So again, I don't know your particular situation, so I can't really be specific, but definitely no bad mouthing. You've got to be careful with toxic exes. You don't want things, if you're going through the court process, to say, well, they've gone and said this, this, and this to the kids. That will be seen as bad mouthing. That's not good for you in any situation, but family courts obviously don't like that, understandably. But if you say nothing, and I've got clients who have said nothing, go, I'm not allowed to badmouth, so I'm just going to go, well, can't say anything, then they only hear one side of the story. If they only hear one side of the story as they get older, they can believe that, or they can become very confused, because obviously they're thinking, well, if it's mum in this case, she never told me any different. And then years down the line, suddenly go, well, that's not the case. And they've had their beliefs built on a different way of thinking. That's challenging. So it's about finding a way. And that's, if you want to talk to somebody like one of my coaches or me, or like the domestic abuse charity, they can help you navigate those paths. It's important. But again, you do need specific advice to your particular scenario. But again, your kids better than anyone. And do the right thing by your kids is always the number one thing when you're going through a divorce. Do the right thing by your kids. Okay, like it might feel good to say she's done this and done this and done that, or he's done this, look at me, poor me. That's not best for the kids in a lot of scenarios. So again, it's a fine line.
Sara, do you have time for one more question?
Just one more, and then we're going to go over to James and Claire, because I know they're in the room.
Okay, so Kerry has asked, should you maintain a relationship with the ex?
Oh, that's it. Well, it depends. Do you want to? And do you have to? It's a big question. I mean, if you've got kids, then it's always best to have an amicable relationship with your ex. And that's what we aim for. That's what we want to work towards, because it's easier for the kids. But if you're coming out of a toxic relationship, if it's an abusive relationship, that can be really difficult. And it can be damaging to you. And you've got to reassess your boundaries in a safe way. You know, you don't reassess them and say, right, now you can't come in my house, and they might get very angry with you. You've got to be very careful with a toxic ex. But in any relationship, when you come out, you need to reevaluate your boundaries, meaning what is acceptable behavior for you? Is it okay for your ex to come in and out of your house? I did a podcast on this the other day. Is it okay? Because, you know, some people say, well, my ex comes around, comes in to pick the kids up. And other people are like, oh, God, no, he has to knock, or you know, she's got a key. I asked for the key back. You know, so what are your boundaries? But I mean, if you don't have to see your ex ever again, if you weren't, you know, if you don't have kids, your lives don't interact, then, you know, it's up to you. But with kids, usually with handovers and things and, you know, weddings or family events, you may well have to see them again. So in which case you can do it as amicably as possible, but functionally friendly, which again is in my podcast and again is in my books, which is about just being friendly on the surface, saying all the right things, but never sharing personal information, never oversharing, never saying how you feel about things, or if you're seeing someone, or where you're going, what you're doing. Just some surface level stuff that you can chat about relevant to the kids or their school or whatever, but not personal information. That can get you through some tricky situations. So you just keep it surface level. Great. Okay. Right. Now we have a treat. Because, hey, I don't know if you can find James and Claire, but I'd love to bring them on. So, aha, here you go.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello. Right, I was going to read your bio, but seeing as you gorgeous two are on, let me introduce you. We've got James and Claire Davis, guys. They are very dear friends of mine. I think I've known James since I was probably 10 years old at school. And I've known the lovely Claire for many years now because you've been together for a while. So would you like to introduce yourselves and explain to everyone who are the Midlife Mentors?
Oh, go on, James.
Big task. So as Sara said there, we are the Midlife Mentors. So our background is we started out with fitness holidays and coaching back in 2011. But about 2.5 years ago, because of our age and what we were seeing with a lot of our clients, we got really interested in midlife health in particular, but looking at the holistic whole. So not just the physical side of training, which we kind of all know, but like nutrition, our gut health, our hormone health, how stress affects that, looking particularly at our mindset as well, and how all this ties together for the holistic whole. So now we run a podcast, Midlife Mentors, top 1.5% on Listen Notes. We run coaching programs for midlifers.
And we started running retreats again.
We started running retreats again now that COVID's on the way out. We just ran one last week in Marbella. So yeah, that's
now,
us in a nutshell.
Now the world has gone a little bit more kind of normal, hopefully a bit more normal. We're running retreats again because we love that, you know, one-to-one connection. So that's great.
So, I mean, I've been on your retreats. I love them. So just to explain to people what happens on your retreats, because a lot of people listening, going through very difficult breakups, are thinking, like to get away maybe, but is it really hard work? Am I going to be able to do this? Because this sounds like maybe it's a bit hardcore. So explain.
Well, firstly, it is a really safe space. I want to say that it's a really safe space. We do get a lot of solo men and women that actually have come, you know, it's this time of our life, and, you know, they're coming away feeling potentially not very safe in their environment. So actually coming to somewhere safe that they feel looked after and cared for is really, really important to us, actually. So we get a lot of people like that on our retreats, coming as solos. And it really is, like James said, even the Midlife Mentors and Midlife Method stuff that we do, it's a real body, mind and soul approach. So it's kind of, it's all areas of your life. So it's not just about training and boosting you at all. In fact, we don't do that. We never say that we're a boot camp. It's about teaching you new ways to move your body that are in line with your hormones. It's teaching you about nutrition, specifically for the midlife body. But it's also teaching you a little bit about what's holding you back. So I know, sorry, you were just talking so much about, I don't know, like gratitude as well. We came on when you were talking about gratitude and learning to I suppose, build that resilience within yourself and look at your self-identity, your self-beliefs, and stopping self-sabotaging yourself as well. So it's a real kind of way to reset yourself. That's what we say. It's like a way to reset yourself in mind, body and soul. And it's perfect if you are going through that breakup or have been through a breakup, because it's that reset button in every way.
What we need, right? I mean, that January blues, and it's tough. Now, you guys have your own individual stories of divorce. James, you start, and then we'll move on to Claire.
Yeah, so put me in a hot seat there.
Woo, that is a hot seat.
So yeah, I was married to my first wife for I think about 15 or 16 years. We've been together like 17, 18 years, and we'd moved to Ibiza together and set up the business, and obviously over that period of time done a lot together. And I wasn't really aware anything was too drastically wrong in a relationship. You know, there was like minor things, but I think, you know, the pressure of the business was a major thing. And in 2014, my wife just turned around and said, I want a divorce, that's it. And it came completely out of the blue. So I went through my own struggles there, kind of left holding a business with like hundreds of clients pouring through it, demanding time and attention. So I had to keep my eye on that ball while trying to deal, you know, with my emotions from the fallout of that. And speaking for myself, it was very debilitating. You know, it really destroyed my self-confidence for a long time. I went into quite a destructive spiral in terms of I guess my therapy for myself was punishing my body. So I used to just like, you know, work out super hard all the time, really to an unhealthy amount. And gradually over time, you know, I started to recognize these patterns. I'm like, come on, you know, you coach this stuff, you know what you're doing here, and start to recognize it, bring awareness to it, and start to work on myself. Claire came into my life, inspired me to do even more work, and, you know, and all I'd say to anyone who's going through this or gone through this, however bleak it's looking right now, you know, there is a way out of it, and your future can be amazing again. Your confidence can come back, and it's a beautiful thing when it does. It's really a chance, whether you're at midlife or not. If you've gone through a breakup, you know, we all make compromises when we're in long-term relationships. We all lose a little bit of ourselves. It's a chance to really reestablish who you are, but who you want to be as well. We always talk about that, you know, your self-identity. It's not set in stone. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? And like, take the power to step into that. It is possible. So I've done it.
Yeah, and I remember coming out to Ibiza, I think it must have been 2014, 2015, when you were just going through that, and you hadn't got together with Claire at that point, and you were, you know, very different to how you are now. And, you know, it's true that, you know, you walked your talk. You were doing things with your health and your fitness, which were your tools. I mean, I was doing different things with my divorce coaching skills, but, you know, you were doing things with your health and your fitness. I was like, wow, okay, because you were very disciplined with your food and how you were doing things. But yeah, so has he relaxed somewhat, Claire?
Yes, I made him relax. Absolutely. You know, because it is, well, I've been there as well, you know, that way of punishing yourself. I mean, this is my third marriage. So third time lucky. I've been divorced twice. So obviously it wasn't enough for me the first time around. I thought I'd go again. And both of them were complete disasters for different reasons. And the second time, I actually found out, it was quite a shock. I actually found out that, you know, we were broken up, but then he was with someone else, and it was all behind closed doors. And I did feel very cheated by that. And in the end, I was put on antidepressants. It's all like 10 years ago now. So I was in such a bad way that I was put on antidepressants, and I was on them for about 6 months. And that's actually what inspired me. James, we always talk about this. James had always been into fitness and stuff, and I hadn't. It was actually looking after I always say, when you're going through a really traumatic time, if you can find a way to start bringing some self-care, and I know that's a really overused word, and, you know, it's really trite sometimes, but actually starting to look after how you are fueling your body, actually start moving your body, start taking care of your mind a little bit more, start practicing some gratitude. Those small things will make a huge difference to your healing. To your healing.
Hayley, can you mute everyone for me?
Yeah, I'll sort that out.
Thanks, Hayley. Superstar there. Oh, we can't hear you now though, so we need to unmute yourselves, guys.
Unmute. That's fine.
Yeah, we're back.
So, you know, when everything else is out of control and just all over the place, that's the one thing for me that I found massively helps me. Well, you know, I was drinking too much alcohol. I really wasn't taking care of myself at all, and I'd never learned how to. And then when I learned how to start taking care of myself, I regained my power. You know, that was how I was regaining my power and my control. And actually, like James said, reestablishing a new identity for myself, like, who do I want to be right now? And that helped me come off. It did help me come off my antidepressants. Fueling myself properly, moving my body properly, starting to feel better in my own skin, more comfortable, losing some weight. And that's why I actually ended up wanting to help other people, other women particularly, going through divorces and going through breakups. It was really funny. You attract your own tribe, don't you? So when I first started out doing all the PT and the nutrition, I was attracting women that had gone through a similar thing to me. And it was just beautiful. It was like, butterflies coming back out of their shell again. It was, you know, I'm very, very honoured to be able to do that.
You guys do an amazing job. I know you've got a huge following. So, I mean, people look at you guys, obviously you are glowing and you're fit and you're healthy and you're there. People look at you going, well, that's great for them, but how do I get there? Like, I don't want to work out. I don't need a 6-pack or whatever, but how do I, you talk about getting yourself back on track. Let's look at the maybe nutrition first, and then maybe fitness, and then maybe we'll move on to mindset, because I know you mentioned all three. But with food, often comfort eating is a big thing. Either not eating. I went on the Costa, so I'm not recommending this, but I went on the Costa hot chocolate diet, which was the only thing I ate for about 3 months. And I lost a lot of weight on the diet, even though it's only just sugar and whatever it is, I don't know. And I can't even stand the smell of them now. But, that's the only thing my PA at the time could get me to take. So that was it. So, but I mean, that wasn't healthy, but I wasn't eating much. I've got clients that eat a lot to compensate, and I have clients that drink a lot more. Which again takes the edge off, but then can have a very negative effect on it as well. So if anyone watching or listening right now, how can they move past that? Just small steps.
Before you go in, I just want to say, just on this, like right at the beginning there, you were like, people looking at Claire and James, they must think, oh, that's fit and healthy. They've always been that way. Just touched on the fact that I haven't been at all. I've been like a couple of dress sizes bigger than I am now. And a couple of dress sizes smaller. I had a really unhealthy relationship with food and my body, like proper body dysmorphia. So it takes time, is what I want to say. It's not, oh, they're naturally like that, or having expectations that are beyond what is within your remit right now. You're going through a breakup, you're going through a divorce. Be kind to yourself, be compassionate with yourself. Don't compare yourself really to other people. Just be on your own journey, and just make sure that you're nurturing and loving yourself as much as you possibly can. But I wanted to say that because sometimes, it's easy, isn't it, to look at other people and think, oh, they've always been that way, or, oh, why aren't I like that? Or why can't I be like that person? It's, I always say comparison is the thief of joy. This is your healing journey. So make sure it's yours and that you're not comparing yourself to other people.
Well said.
I say with breakups, we know that it's a stressful time for people. And what happens when we're going through a stress response? Essentially, there's two things going on for us that could make us likely to overeat. The first is the body's stress response, right? We're not good at distinguishing between psychological stress and physiological stress. And our evolutionary stress response is geared up for the physiological, i.e. there's a physical threat, we need to fuel to fight or flight. So when we have a psychological threat, obviously, we're not going to use that fuel. Something like a breakup, we're just under stress and we're playing over everything. It's the same thing. Our body's like, oh, stress, we need to take food on board, which is why we start craving, particularly, those high energy foods, starchy, sugary. So the tendency is to go for that. I think you said earlier, like sitting under the duvet eating a bag of crisps, is the classic example. There's also a really strong link between our emotions and our diet. Most of our neurotransmitters are actually produced in the gut. There's more and more research on this all the time, but 90% of our neurotransmitters are made in the gut, not in the brain where we first thought. So what we eat actually has a massive impact on our emotions and what we feel. And again, if we're fueling with like processed foods, high sugar foods, that's all damaging our gut biomes as well. So that leads to like increased feelings of anxiety, depression. So we've got these like two things going on one side, stress response, load with energy, and then the food you are taking in is actually like making you feel worse. It's increasing your anxiety. So what I want to do is I always say the first step to change is awareness. So recognize that and just be like, oh, right, my body's telling me to reach for the chocolate digestives. Actually, you know what? I should probably eat something a little bit healthier. So let's get, a cracker with some cream cheese on it. Let's get some wholemeal bread, put some like good quality peanut butter on it. We want to try and take little steps a little bit at a time. There's no point, if at the moment you're sitting there and you're eating cake every day, there's no point going, right, I'm going to survive on fish and rice for the next 6 weeks. You're just going to, I hate the word, but you're going to fail at it. Take the small steps, change your diet slowly over time, start trying to build up more of the whole foods, the natural foods, increase your lean protein in particular, things like, fresh fish, lean poultry, lean red meats, pulses, beans. Just start making the small changes, learn your portion sizes. And then the big thing is when we're stressed, we start to think we're hungry all the time. Actually, hunger is often mild dehydration. So make sure you're drinking enough water, always have that big glass of water. But I say if you've had your meal and you're thinking, right, physiologically, do I need to take in more calories or not? Or as it's just like a habit that's starting to go, or is this a stress response? Go and have a massive glass of water first. Wait 20 minutes because that's how long the chemical signals take to go. And then if you're still hungry, then have like a little high protein snack.
I'd also say just on the awareness we always say awareness precedes change. You can't change what you don't know. So actually what happens a lot with food is it's an emotional driven thing. So it's like actually becoming aware of what those emotions are, what your triggers are and what your emotions are. So I always say I did this, you stuff down your feelings with food. So you stuff them down. You're either bored, you're lonely. I mean, loneliness is a killer, right? So when we're going through breakup, you feel really lonely, you feel really anxious, you feel angry, all these feelings and emotions, you're trying to stuff them down with food. Or conversely, you've gone off food completely and you're almost going into, beating up your body. So you're actually reverse engineering it. You're actually taking it out on your body by not eating. So there's two sides of the coin, and actually looking at the triggers for both of those is really, really important. But actually having awareness of what your trigger is and what emotion you might be feeling that makes you go to reach for the alcohol. We're going to talk about alcohol, going to reach for the biscuit, going to reach for the chocolate and all that sort of stuff. And actually we try and say with our clients, like, when that's going on, when you feel that, acknowledge it. Don't try and hide from it. What you hide from gets more power over you. So actually not acknowledge it, stare it in the face and go, that's what I'm feeling. And then actually have we call like a 5-second rule. Go and do something else. If you're suddenly aware of what your trigger is and what your emotion is, just go and do something else. You need a whole list of those things ready to implement when that happens. And actually, behind that is a whole load of belief systems, but it's a real inner work. This isn't just about nutrition and making sure you're changing this, that, and the other. It's actually being aware of what emotions, because you're feelings and fuel, they're completely interlinked. So understand what you're feeling when you're going after a certain food or going after the alcohol is really important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great advice. Guys, in the chat, what's your comfort food? Where do you go? I mean, I when I was going through mine, it was the hot chocolate, but I can't stand the smell of it anymore. It's interesting, as you change, I think someone put in there actually,
pasta.
You don't want certain foods. Bread, Angela says,
pasta.
Bread. Yeah, pasta, chocolate and gin.
Chocolate and gin. What
together,
a combo.
Sounds like a fun evening.
Ice cream, wine. I love it. Look at all these ones coming in. Mine was pasta. I was a real carb girl. I was like, oh, I know. I'll have pasta with cheese on. That was my go-to. And it also, I didn't have to think about it too much when I was cooking there on my own. Nutella ice.
We can see there's a real theme here, right? This again is all high energy foods, high sugar, high starch, which your body will release really quickly. So what's happening on a hormonal level there is our insulin shooting up to get this high, going, oh, I feel great, I feel energized. But of course, after every high is a low, which is why, you eat that packet of biscuits, you feel great for like 20 minutes. Half an hour later, you're like in this slump, like, oh, I feel really low now. I need to eat something else. So we want to try and minimize those foods and narrow that insulin roller coaster down. So we're keeping a stable blood sugar level.
Because sugar is linked to depression and anxiety, like we've said. So, and also people think it's just a chocolate biscuit or a piece of cake. High GI carbs are also sugar. So if you're stuffing your face like with pasta, like I was, I'm going to get that massive insulin spike, and then everything that goes up must come down. So there's this constant up and down, not only of my insulin response, but my emotions and my anxiety and my sleep. You know, if you're having too much sugar in your diet, your sleep's massively impaired.
So, I mean, I like what you said about replacing it for something else, because I always say, you know, if you can't stop doing something without replacing it with something else. So just, guys, what can they replace it for? What guys, what are you going to replace it for? Like, maybe put your suggestions, your own suggestions in the chat. But guys, what would you recommend?
So James always says, like, especially around the alcohol, because this is a massive thing for our clients as well. You know, it's that 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock thing for a lot of people. Put the laptop down, go in if we're working at home, which a lot of us have been, and you've got the kids around you and you're cooking for the kids. You go for that glass of wine. Instead of going for a glass of wine, actually just have like a herbal tea, or like we're drinking right now. We've got like non-alcoholic gin and fizz, so you actually feel like you're having a treat. Again, it needs to feel like a bit of a treat, but we've got alcohol, zero alcohol gin. So doing the same thing. Or for me, I go and do, you know, when I was coming off the alcohol, not drinking so much, at the moment I'm alcohol free, I was going off and doing something else, like reading a book or going for a walk or phoning a friend, or even doing a little bit of exercise, seriously, just doing some jumping jacks to get the endorphin rush that I'm looking for, that you want the dopamine hit that the alcohol is normally giving you. Go and get it from somewhere else. A really good thing to do is write down things that give you pleasure that are non-food or drink related. Just spend like an evening writing more little bits of paper, tear them up, put them all in a jar. So when you're like, oh, I want a snack, dip in, out, and I'll be like, oh, paint your nails, oh, read a chapter. That's what James does. James is like, oh, I'm really after a drink. It's a distraction technique, you know. It's like a pattern interrupt. Yeah. You're like, oh, break it, then distract from it, and then the urge to eat whatever it is, drink whatever it is, will go away. Yeah, and I love the idea of non-alcoholic drinks. And I guess you got to watch the sugar content on those, I suppose, as well. But I mean, if you're in the supermarket and you usually go and get the crisps, and then you go past the chocolate biscuits, and then you go for, you know, what can people be grabbing? Is it like things like nuts, or what about those health bars? Are they any good? Do you think? No, stay away from the health bars. We're always banging about this. These health bars are always held together with essentially dried fruits. So when you actually look, here's a key thing for everyone. All food is labelled, right? You want to learn the label on the back. The bit you want to look at is carbohydrates, of which sugars. Anything over 21.5% or 21.5 grams per 100 grams is considered a high sugar food according to NHS guidelines. You'll find some of those health bars are like 33, 40 grams per like 50 grams or something, because they've just used like date syrups, crushed dates, everything. You eat one of those, and this is where people go wrong, you know. They're really enticingly packaged with a little squirrel or the rabbit on. Free. Your kid's going, oh, I want one. You give your kid one thinking this is a healthy treat. Next minute, you know, little Johnny's going bananas because he's got a huge sugar rush. Plain nuts are really good. So plain nuts, obviously they're nutritionally dense, a lot of calories. So just small amount. Good quality nut butters, again, with no palm oil, no sugars, no salt. Things like cottage cheese is high protein, low fat if you like it. I know it's a bit like love or hate with cottage cheese. Stuff like Greek yogurt as well, low fat Greek yogurt, again, will stimulate your leptin, which is your I'm full hormone. Just a lot of things to go to. And one of ours is like, have some protein powder, get good quality protein powder, sprinkle some of that in some yogurt, even just make a little shake with it. And there you go. Yeah, protein is really key. Having good quality protein for every meal, and even a snack will help trigger leptin, which is your I'm full hormone. So that's a game changer for so many people. Rather than going for the sugary snack, which does absolutely nothing, go for protein. Tip. All right, great. So that's nutrition. Tick. Thank you. I love it. Let's go to fitness then. So, I mean, how can we sort of start to improve our general fitness? You know, I mean, obviously, if you've been in a toxic relationship, you know, or you've been in an abusive relationship, that, you know, too much exercise can trigger that. I know when I had problems with, I go for these real runs and ended up having a panic attack halfway around because I was already in fight or flight all the time anyway. And I was like, I'm going to push myself. And then I'm like, oh, I can't breathe. So, you know, sometimes that isn't the best way forward. So what's your advice for people that, you know, maybe aren't normal, natural exercises, but need to get something going? Well, I'd say just start somewhere. Something is better than nothing. So step by step, literally step by step. So going for a walk and just increasing that every other day, just increasing that walk. Do what you love is first of all, you know, don't start running. Don't think, oh, I've got to go and run if I don't like running. Try and find something you actually enjoy, whether it's, you know, For some people, it might be a crazy spin class. It might just be a gentle run. It might be going out in nature. That's a really, really good way, actually, to help with your stress hormone cortisol, is actually go out in nature. There's lots of research around being out in nature, bringing your stress hormone down, getting that vitamin D as well, which helps with the low mood, the anxiety, and the depression. So getting outside and actually doing something is really key. What we would say as well is make sure that you are doing resistance training, right? And this is a non-negotiable, especially at midlife. It's a non-negotiable anyway, but doing some resistance training, because as we age, our muscle mass decreases, so does our bone density. So if we want to feel good in our own skin as well, we want to maintain muscle mass. Muscle is more metabolically active than fat, so you're increasing your metabolic rate. So you want to be doing that anyway for good health, good bone health as well. But it just makes you, and I honestly, this was how I helped get myself over my divorce and my breakup, was actually just feeling strong and powerful in my body. And you can do the amount of cardio you want, but actually, I promise you, once you start getting some resistance, like lifting, there's something really, really amazing, the mind-body connection, that when you start lifting some weights and feeling stronger in your body and more powerful, that then complements how you're starting to feel physically and mentally and emotionally as well. So it's really, really, it's a real confidence booster to start doing some resistance training as well.
I would just add to that, whatever exercise you do as well, there's a lot of research linking exercise to lower levels of anxiety and depression.
Totally.
And so it is a proven mood booster. And here's like the amazing stat. If you start to exercise regularly, every time you exercise, you produce endorphins, feel-good neurotransmitters. If you're doing it regularly, even on the days that you don't exercise, that you have a rest day, you still get that feel-good boost. So that's a reason to start doing it.
Yeah.
The other thing I say is people always overestimate the amount of calories that you burn doing exercise. Most of our calorie burn comes from what we call like non-exercise activities. And particularly with lockdown, we've all been moving around a lot less, which is one of the reasons people may have put on a few pounds during the last couple of years. So don't underestimate that. It's just about remembering to get up, walk around the house. If you've only got to go a short distance, maybe don't take the car, go for a walk, go up the stairs, don't take the lift. All those little things will start to add up over time.
I'd just say, remember the long-term game as well. I did a post on this morning. It's not always going to be easy to get yourself moving at first, but we were going to mention this. It's about having a really, really strong why. It's about having a really strong why. Like, why do you want to do this? Why is this important to you? Actually being healthy and happy for your children as well. You mentioned this earlier before we came on. Being a really good role model, being the healthiest, most energized version of yourself. So, thinking about that and thinking not, oh my God, I can't stand this, I'm getting up and having to do this, but actually giving yourself self-talk. This is going to get easier. I'm doing this because I want to reclaim my power, my sense of control over my body, my mind, and my life. I want to be a good role model for my children. I want to be healthy. I want to, live a great life, a long life, healthy life. So it's about knowing that you don't necessarily start out moving your body thinking, oh yeah, this is amazing. Not all the time. You just think this is such a chore. But once you start, momentum breeds momentum. Once you start getting the results and start feeling good and get those dopamine hits and the endorphin rushes, it becomes a lot easier.
It does. And there's some questions coming here, guys, about kettlebells. What are your thoughts about kettlebells and HIIT training? And then also, what resistance activities do you recommend for beginners?
Okay, let's deal with those. Kettlebells are amazing. Yeah, we get a lot.
Most of our clients do.
Obviously, again, a lot of people haven't been in gym, so most of our clients work out at home, and most of them work out with kettlebells, and resistance bands are also good. They're the big stretchy elastic bands. You get them in different thicknesses, which gives you a different level of resistance. They're great.
I love them.
Obviously, cheap as chips, don't take up any space and still give you a good workout. But kettlebells are so versatile. You can do so many moves. You can start with just one or just a couple of different weights and then start to build your setup. But you can do so much of them. They're really good. HIIT, we love. So HIIT, for people who don't know, stands for high intensity interval training. And people always get scared about the first I, intensity there. But remember, intensity is intense for you at the level you're at.
Have you got a bottle of water?
Oh.
Here, take 2 small bottles of water for the 2.
Hayley, thanks, Hayley.
Which basically means you should be going at a level that is intense for you. So obviously, if you're a complete beginner, just gently moving around, it's going to get you out of breath. That's what we're looking to do. With HIIT, we're looking to get out of breath, create what we call the oxygen debt, because when we create an oxygen debt, our metabolism will spike for hours afterwards trying to recover it. So HIIT is lovely. It's also really easy to fit in your day, right? So we should be doing like no more than around 20 minutes if we're going at that intensity. And then what was the last question? Kettlebells, HIIT, and resistance for beginners. I would say you can start with really simple body weight stuff. If you're a complete beginner, you know, just things like, you know, body weight squats, press ups from your knees. You can fill 2 bottles of water up and just overhead presses with bottles of water. You don't need to buy equipment to start. You know, sometimes we start clients just with go and fill a couple of bottles of water and you just using your body weight. Some
say they use bottles of wine, but we don't necessarily say that they should be using bottles of wine. One of the things I want to say about HIIT as well, obviously increases your fitness. Really, you know, if you're doing that intensity and you're creating what we call an oxygen debt, you're basically creating this oxygen debt. Your body takes about 24 hours to recover from that. So all that time you're burning calories. It's a really, really good way of helping you increase your VO2 max, your fitness, your endurance. But also there's a lot of research. There's a company called Glycanage that we did a podcast with. And they were looking at biological age versus chronological age, and they were looking at mainly athletes, and a lot of the athletes crazily were actually biologically 20 years older than their chronological age, and the amount of stress that they were putting on their body. And they looked at loads of different factors, and interval training was one of the only things across the board, that not just athletes but everyone, that helped bring people's biological age down, and it really helps with brain health. So HIIT is, you know, love it or hate it, it's really, really good for your body, your hormones, and your brain health as well. Because as we get older, our brains start to shrink, sadly. But actually, it's really, really good for our brain health. So really good to do.
Yeah. And I love all that, guys. Such good advice. It's such good advice. You always give such practical tips. So I love it. Now, mindset. This is something obviously I talk a lot about, but where it comes into your guys, I want to touch on mindset. I also want to touch on menopause as well before we go, because I know there's going to be some questions on that. Guys, if you've got any questions for James and Claire, do pop them in the box, because they're going to go through some of them for you now. So, right. So mindset, guys, you talk about having a why. What else is important?
So one of the things we say to clients is, first of all, give yourself permission to prioritize yourself. So often in life, particularly by midlife, we prioritize so many other things. We prioritize our career, our finances, our family, our kids. What we haven't done is actually stop to go, what do we need right now? You know, just looping right back to self-care. And sometimes it's just to go, I give myself permission to prioritize me. You know, and that's really, really important. You can't give from an empty vessel. I was talking about, you want to set an example for your kids as well. So this can start, that's the starting point, giving yourself permission to prioritize, and then making a plan. And this is where a lot of people fall down. They just be like, oh, I want to lose some weight. Okay, well, actually, do you want to lose weight, or should we actually be talking about you want to lose body fat? That's the real thing. How much do you want to lose? By when? What method are you going to use to achieve that? You know, we have to apply the same things to apply to a business plan, a life plan, a financial plan to ourselves. And so many of us fail to do that. So the old SMART acronym really works. You know, break it all down, have a plan. But the missing part is connecting the emotion to it, which is where the why comes in. You know, this thing that's going to keep you motivated. You know, why do I want this? You've got your plan laid out, you've got your steps, you've got your time scales. Just keep asking yourself, why do I want this thing? What's the emotion driving it? What do I want from this? That's what's going to keep you going. I'd
also say, and then, you know, when we take people through that process, it's also really understanding what some of your triggers are. So I mentioned that earlier. So understanding, you know, what some of your behaviours, your normal behaviour that you'd like to change, some of those habits, or, you know, how you might lash out when you're feeling X, Y, and Z or whatever, and actually working back, what's the trigger behind that, and actually then looking at what our belief systems are. You know, when we want something, you know, they say apparently 95% of our thoughts are the same as the day before. So we wonder why our present day looks so much like our past, and we can kind of identify what our future is going to look like if we keep on thinking the same thoughts and feelings, you know, coming from the same belief systems. So it's really, really important to know what your story is. What is your story, and what's the story that's probably going to prevent you becoming the fullest version of yourself, the version of yourself that you know is in there, you know is within you, and you want this so much. But most of the time when people hate this as well, fail, and moving towards their goals, it's because of their belief systems that are behind it. It's like we see the phenomenon with people that aren't very well off, and they win the lottery. This is actually a crazy phenomenon that, they win the lottery, but they've got a scarcity mindset because they're not used to having that level of money. And then they end up burning through that and becoming more in debt. It's because they do not believe that they are a wealthy person or able to look after money. So it's the same with anything in life. If you are not being the person that you need to be in order to have the thing that you want, then that's where you need to start. It's the whole be, do, have, rather than have, do, be.
So good, guys. Now we've got a question come in here, if you are happy to look at this. So this is from a woman, and she says, my stomach is actually feeling a little tender once I've eaten a meal and very bloated. I'm going very low on caffeine and spice. Any thoughts from your nutritional background?
Vegetables.
It's hard to know without knowing more about what's being eaten, but
dairy, gluten.
Yeah, things that cause bloating commonly are things like gluten, dairy, even stuff that's healthy cruciferous vegetables. So stuff like broccoli, cauliflower can cause us to bloat out. It's really good for us. The fibre in that is great for gut biomes. Another thing actually is stress, right? And this is commonly it. So when we're stressed, we have a stress response, and we've got two hormones that fire, adrenaline and cortisol. Cortisol has the effect of actually shutting down our digestive system. So again, it's this fight or flight. Our hormones are shutting down the bits we don't need to fight an actual physical confrontation or run away from it right now. So reproductive system, this is why when we're stressed, like libido can go out the window. It's why our confidence can go down. We shut down the digestive system. So there's a big school of thinking that a lot of the modern kind of proliferation of IBS is actually down to like people like being stressed and eating on the run, like rather than
not being conscious,
sitting down and eating their meal consciously. They're in a stress state anyway, and then they're like wolfing that sandwich down in like 5 minutes, not really thinking about it. And of course, you're going to get complications in your gut when you've done that.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, stress is just one of those things that we're living with so much of it right now because of the pandemic anyway and everything that's going on. So, I mean, it's just really managing that, and it's great advice, guys. A lot of people are loving the idea of your jar of ideas.
Yay!
That's a really good one. Yeah, really good one.
Quite sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, really like that one too. Okay, so let's get on to menopause, because I know you guys talk about it, and we were doing a podcast on this not that long. You're a guest on my podcast for this one, weren't you? And James mentioned something called the male menopause, which I was like, what? What is that? Is there a thing? So, I mean, we all know we go through it as women, but James, say a little bit about the andropause. That's the word I learned that day?
Yeah, the andropause. So Claire will dive into the female menopause. So men do go through it too. Basically, what's happening for men is our primary sex hormone is testosterone. Women have estrogen and progesterone. Our levels of testosterone peak in our 20s, and they start to decline at between 1% and 3% a year, which doesn't sound a lot, but cumulatively, by the time we're hitting like our 50s, we could be 30 to 50% lower. And the stats say that between 30 to 50% of men will experience noticeable symptoms of male menopause, 10% severe symptoms. Effectively, what that means is with low testosterone, obviously you're, again, losing muscle mass, losing strength, losing energy levels. It's going to affect your libido. It'll affect your confidence. Similarly to the female menopause, it causes brain fog, lack of concentration, poor sleep patterns. So these are all things that men will be suffering as well. And of course, overlaying that, that's just like physiologically what's happened. You have like the psychological effects. You imagine if you're somebody feeling like you haven't got a handle on your life anymore, you define yourself in terms of like traditional masculinity maybe, and suddenly like your libido is not firing, you're not as strong and not as fit anymore, that can start to then like exacerbate the effects of all of it, which is where like the very tired stereotype of midlife crisis, like the 50-year-old guy driving a sports car with the 18-year-old model comes from. But
I laugh, it's not funny.
It's not funny, but it's that kind of attempt to reclaim youth by not really understanding what's happening. And my mission is basically to help men understand what is happening and how you can start to work with those hormonal changes to actually build yourself a better life going forward rather than lurching into the crisis.
Well, and also for the male and female energy is to kind of understand, and obviously for us women, it is way worse. It's way worse, of course. However, it is helpful for women and for men to actually come together and communicate about stuff like this, because the amount of people, we ran a relationship course, like a little workshop a few months ago, and the amount of the men that actually did come on that workshop, because we kind of said it's about understanding what the women in your life are going through, but also what you're going through, and bringing that to the forefront so you can have conversations rather than going in silo. Because it is really confusing for men. A lot of time, us women get to midlife and we're kind of re-identifying with ourselves. We're wondering, you know, we might have had a breakup. We're starting to reclaim our power a little bit more, right? And so for the men, sometimes that can feel really threatening. So it's about bringing that, you know, conversation about hormonally what's going on as well, so they can understand each other a bit better.
I think it's fascinating because, you know, we don't talk about these things. I mean, us Brits probably worse than this than anyone else, but we don't really, do we? We don't really talk about it. And I think that a lot of clients that I see, it has impacted their relationships.
Yes.
Like the breakdown, like going through the menopause, it has really been one of the underlying causes.
Yes.
I hear a lot of my male clients saying, well, my wife really changed.
Yes.
She didn't want me around. She didn't want to be close to me. She didn't want to have intimacy. She didn't really talk to me. And then, you know, obviously you hear the stories of you know, some of the husbands who have gone off and doing crazy things that James was saying as well, like sports cars and all sorts of things. I mean, obviously it's not an excuse for bad behavior, right? But how do we help people to start to communicate about something that probably is quite uncomfortable at times?
Yeah, well, that's about bringing the awareness to it.
I think it's about having the courage to be vulnerable and actually have the open conversation with your partner, and that's where it's got to start. I mean, the examples there are classic. You know, you can imagine for both men and women what's going on hormonally. You know, like one of the things is libido is going to go, but you can imagine then the psychosexual impact going on. If, like, you know, one day the woman's like, oh, you know, I can't remember the man's, or you think, oh, you know, last time we tried this, it didn't work for me and I'm not feeling like it anyway. So he says no, the woman feels rebuffed, so that's more distance. Then the man might feel bad, so then he tries to come on hot to the woman, and she's like, no, and they're just going further and further away. No one's going, hey, you know, look, I guess what's happening is, like, here, my hormones, I'm feeling this way at the moment. I still love you dearly and want to connect with you physically, but
it can feel
it's
very
about
alone.
having those open, honest conversations, I think, so we all know where we stand.
I think you can feel very alone when you're going through the menopause or the andropause. You know, you can feel incredibly isolated, and you know, even starting to bring awareness to it so you don't think it's just you. You know, a lot of women and men think, oh, this is just me. This is just happening to me. But actually, guy, like, bring some self-compassion to it. It is your hormones. It is happening to way more many people, all of us. It's happening to all of us. And you know, bringing that to the forefront so people have the courage and the vulnerability to talk about it is really, really key.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, you know, it's human nature to internalise stuff. And what will happen there is, like, you're sat there silent thinking, oh, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Or the other extreme, you go going, oh, what's wrong with them? Actually, you know, maybe you just need to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, communication is key, isn't it? And I think, you know, if you've never really communicated in a relationship, it can be hard suddenly to start communicating, can't it? But, you know, I think it's something we all learn when you come out of a relationship, things that weren't right. And if you are going through that right now, you're going through a breakup, you know, this is one of those lessons to bank, right?
Yes.
Communication is key. And like James said, being a bit vulnerable and saying, look, you know, this is what's going on for me right now, because the interpretation, I think that's really interesting what you're saying, the interpretation by somebody else, like your partner in a relationship, can be very different to what you feel. Like, for example, if you don't have any libido that day, you don't want to have sex, and they feel rejected and they think, well, they don't like me anymore, they're going off me. Yeah. And that's not it, you know. So I think that kind of communication is going to be really important.
So it's all the lens, isn't it? It's the lens of our reality. So everyone has a different reality, but we go at everything with our own lens. And actually understanding, one of the main things that we always talk about from our divorces was actually understanding where I could have actually done a bit better, to be honest. And, you know, some of the things that I learned about myself was that lens that I had on wasn't always correct. And if I'd have communicated, I probably would have understood a little bit better. It wouldn't have changed anything, and it still would have played out the way it played out. But you do learn about communication. You do learn about when you're projecting stuff onto someone else, and learning about yourself is really, really key in relationships moving forward and communicating.
Now, Hayley, are you there? Because I'd like to run that poll. We did have a well-being poll.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let's run it and just see what's coming up.
Oh, a well-being poll.
Yes. So what is your biggest well-being challenge, guys? Is it fitness? Is it weight? Or is it mindset? So for those of you, jump on, let's see.
I love this. This is very clever, Sara.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes, I can't take any credit. This is Hayley. She's amazing.
Oh,
Never seen a Zoom poll before.
Hayley, well done.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So your biggest well-being challenge, fitness, weight, or mindset? Ooh, it's changing a bit, right? It's changing a bit. Come on, guys. What is it for you? What is it for you? Okay, let's see. So fitness is coming in third place at 16%, weight 24%, and mindset 61%.
61.
62 actually has gone 62.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys see? That actually it's the mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely. We have a saying, we say you cannot outperform your self-identity. You know, if we look at look at the traditional diet industry, right? There's stats out there, over 97% of dieters put on more weight once they finish a diet, because most diets are rubbish. That's one point. But they're not fundamentally addressing their mindset. You know, if you have a belief that actually I'm not capable of losing this weight and then keeping it off, I cannot sustain this, guess what? You're going to rebound. So it's about actually what we've been talking about, you know, what beliefs do I want? Who do I want to be? And then it's hard work to do, but actually it makes everything easier in the long run. When you're like, I am healthy, I make good choices with food most of the time, I enjoy working out, and that becomes your default setting, you change the neuroscience of your brain, then it becomes easy to do it. If you're locked in this place of like, oh, it's hard for me, I don't like it, guess what? It's always going to be hard for you and you won't like it.
And the thing is,
it's about changing your focus.
It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do externally. If that belief system is not congruent, this is congruence theory, if it's not congruent to what you're doing, this will always ping back. This will always win out. And here's the thing about your subconscious mind, your belief systems and everything, it will always seek pleasure over pain, and it will always go for the path of least resistance. This is why everyone's like, that's the hardest bit. This is the hardest bit. Absolutely, it is for everyone, but it's the most fulfilling bit, because once, neuroscience says we can build new neural pathways in our brain, and we can do this with so much of stuff you teach. It's visualizations, it's affirmations, it's future pacing, it's all these sorts of things, and gratitude, and these kind of some of these spiritual practices that can start help rewiring the brain for the result that we want to go for. And without that, it might happen, but you're not going to stay there. And it's 80% mindset, 20% doing, and that's why everything that we do is underpinned with mindset.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, it's really enlightening, isn't it? I love it. So, James and Claire are going to be joining me. I'm running a live retreat, guys. If you're interested, we're running. Finally, we're allowed to be in the same room. And I'm very excited. I've launched my actual live breakup recovery retreats again. So we've got a date in March. It's the 19th and 20th. And it's a 2-day retreat at Ashdown Park Hotel in the UK. And it's live, obviously, 2 days with me, and my special guests will be James and Claire. They'll be taking you for some sessions. They'll be doing an early morning session as well to get you moving. They'll also be talking a lot more depth about nutrition and helping you create your own plans to get back on track as well. So if you're interested in that, do check it out. And the link, Hayley's just popped. She's brilliant. She's just popped it in the
Hayley, you're amazing.
If you're interested, and I'm offering a £200 discount on that at the moment today anyway for you guys. So do check that link out. James and Claire, where can people find you? You're everywhere, but give us a few places. Where can people find out more about you guys?
Yeah, so I guess the easiest way is our website, which is themidlifementors.com, all one word. You can find us on Instagram. Our handle is Midlife Mentors.
At Midlife Mentors. Well, James doesn't really do Instagram, so he always does it wrong. At Midlife Mentors.
And on Facebook, The Midlife Mentors.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll find you.
Yeah, podcast.
Our podcast.
Podcast, The Midlife Mentors podcast. Super easy.
super easy. And also they're on my podcast as well. A couple of episodes we've done, haven't we? So awesome.
And we cannot wait to come to your retreat.
Can't wait.
So excited for that in March. Spring will be in the air. New beginning.
We'll get everyone moving. We'll sort out their mindsets. It'll be brilliant. So brilliant. All right. Well, thank you guys. Always lovely to see you.
Thank you so much.
Being fabulous guests. Thanks.
Thank you,
pleasure.
darling.
Our pleasure. Thank
Sending
you
lots
so
of love
much.
to you all. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Right. Well, that was amazing. I love those guys. Always, always, always full of lots and lots of energy. So guys, just so you know, coming up is Natalie Page, coming up at 3:15. Now, if you have been in a toxic relationship, abusive relationship, if you have, I mean, does anyone just pop in again or why, if you've been in a toxic relationship? I just want to see how many out of everyone on here do consider to themselves to have been in a toxic relationship. Because it always blows my mind, because what I see is even people that don't really realize it was toxic. I mean, I didn't when I was in mine. I just didn't. We have a poll, another poll. Thanks, Hayley. So are you divorcing an abusive ex? Let's get that going, because I think it'll be really interesting before Natalie comes on to have a look and just see. Now, she's going to talk about navigating the family court system, the pitfalls, the challenges, things to avoid. So it's going to be helpful if you are going through that at the moment, but also if you know people that are. And there's a lot of information that we're going to be discussing here that will help you whether you are or you aren't, okay? But it's really information that everybody needs to know. You know, it always shocks me how little education there is in toxic relationships. So let's see. Not everybody's answered, but I think about 55% of people are divorcing a toxic ex. It's different. It is different. It's not the same process, because if you're in a toxic relationship, that means abusive relationship. Whether it's emotional abuse, coercive control, which is just very controlling behavior, financial abuse, whether it's physical abuse, all of that, sexual abuse, there's so many different types of abuse, okay? And that's something that you think, gosh, I mean, I was told, you know, when you're out of a toxic relationship, things start to get better. Not if you're going through the divorce process, unfortunately. In a lot of cases, the post-separation abuse can accelerate and kick off even more. And how do they do that? Well, the thing is, right, they might be lying, they might be manipulative, they might be deceitful, they might be cruel and unkind, might be distracting and confusing behavior. All those behaviors, they don't just stop. They get transferred into the breakup process. So whether that's paperwork, whether that's kids, whether that's the legal system. And if you have a family lawyer or a barrister, or you're doing it yourself, you're in with experts in the court, or you're dealing with judges, it's not compulsory, guys. It's not compulsory training for them to understand any of that about abuse, why we get in it, how it plays out, or how it impacts the divorce process. There are some really good professionals in the system who do understand it, but unfortunately they are the minority right now, which is why it's really important that we understand. So if you're going through it, that's why I'm really excited to have Natalie there, because I think it's really, really important. So I'm going to be sharing those results with her, but we will be giving you massive value in that. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. So Natalie's going to be coming on about 3:15. In the meantime, I know all my 3 coaches are on. I'm going to, do you want to come on screen, guys? And let's have a look at the next section. We're going to, my 3 coaches, Sara, Hayley, and Jenny, are going to be answering a question for you guys. Hi, Sara. There's Hayley. Doing a fabulous job, Hayley, by the way. Thank you for that. Okay. And let's find Jenny.
I haven't got Jen at the moment. It's oh, she just needs to put her video on. Okay.
Okay, she's coming on. Okay, great. So when Jenny's on, so Hayley, just explain a little bit about what you're going to be talking about in the next section so people know.
Sure. So myself, Sara, and Jenny are going to have a little chat with you about how you feel about the future. So to kick that off, we've got another poll for you just to keep you entertained. So I'll pop that up for you now. And you can be voting just while we're waiting for Jenny to come on. So our question that we have is, how are you feeling about the future? So are you excited? You can't wait for this next chapter in your life? you're feeling really stuck and you just want to get some clarity, as Sara was talking about earlier on? Or are you really struggling, you haven't really got a vision of what your future looks like? So that whole, whether or not it's a blank page or a black hole that Sara talked about earlier on as well. So get voting, and we will have a discussion around kind of those 3 different stages and how it's impacted each of us.
And that was actually, Hayley, the one thing that came up early in the first poll we did, wasn't it? Fear of the future and how people can get ready for that. And we were talking about throwing as much colour as we can onto the canvas and also shining a light. So I will leave it in your capable hands and see you back here for Natalie at 3:15.
Thanks, Sara. So welcome everybody. We've got the poll going live now. So as we can see, kind of the results are going in. We've had about 65% of you have voted so far. So just drop in the chat box, tell us kind of what it is that you're either excited about that's making you really stuck or struggling. We'd really like to hear about your personal situations to make sure that we can add as much value to you today. Future. So we've got 43% of you are struggling, 34% of you are stuck, and 23% of you are excited. So I'm going to come over to Sara first. So Sara, what's your experience of struggling, not being able to imagine the future ahead?
Thanks, Hayley. Yeah, so I really, really struggled with my divorce. It came out of the blue. I didn't see it coming, and I was completely blindsided by it. I thought I had all my future planned out with my husband. We had all our plans and our dreams and our hopes for the future, and that was literally just taken away from me overnight. And for a long time, I literally couldn't even start to imagine what my future would be like without him. And I just found that really daunting. It wasn't what I wanted. And I was stuck because of that for a long, long time. And if that's how you're feeling at the moment, that is normal, and I completely understand how you're feeling. And I think my advice would be not to set yourself too big goals to start with. It's literally take small steps, as Sara said earlier. And for me, it was literally taking one day at a time and to start with, and not even thinking any further ahead than that. It was doing things like trying to get a routine in my day, which really helped. It gave me some purpose and something to get up for. And as Sara said as well, it's about really trying to take your control back, and planning things in your diary that are fun. So, one of the things that was really important for me was exercise that we've spoken about before. I literally used to drive to the gym after work in tears, go and have my PT session, and I would come out feeling so much better and able to face the world again. So it's finding those things for you that really help you manage your emotions, and think about who you spend your time with as well. Studies from positive psychology have shown that emotions are contagious. So you really want to be spending your time with people that light you up and make you feel good about yourself. People that can make you laugh. Even though you're going through a really tough time, it doesn't mean that you can't laugh and have fun. It's just trying to grab those moments when you can. And it's really worth sitting down and making a list of all the things that you love doing, and then starting to plan some of those in your diary so that you've got them in there and you don't even have to really think about it. And that'd be like arranging things with friends, etc. And being open to opportunities that come your way. Sara spoke earlier about, what we focus on, we see more of. And for me, the major turning point in getting over my divorce was coming out of my comfort zone massively and booking myself onto a photographic safari to Kenya on my own with nobody I knew. And I found that really, really stressful. I'd never done anything like that before. I always went on holiday with my ex, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me. I discovered a new hobby, a new passion, and I've been lucky enough to travel all over the world with it. And I met a group of people who were mostly single, but they just accepted me for who I was in that moment. And up until that point, I'd just been seeing the same friends that we'd seen as a couple together. And all that did was just highlight for me that my partner wasn't there anymore. And that just helped keep me stuck as well. So, opening up my horizons and making a new group of friends, just that one trip and saying yes to something that I was really scared about, changed everything for me.
Yeah. So how did you feel kind of booking that trip? Must have been quite daunting at the time.
It was really daunting. Luckily, I had a friend egging me on, and I just said to myself, it's for 5 nights. So, you know, what's the worst that can happen? If I hate it, is literally just 5 nights. And I'd always loved wildlife. I'd never even had a camera before, so that was new. And I kind of hit it off with a photographer, and he is a very extroverted person. He's kind of a larger than life character, which made me feel comfortable as well. But I just had to keep telling myself it's only 5 nights, and it's
Brilliant.
kind of, you know, what's the worst that can happen?
Well, how did you feel coming home from that trip, having survived the 5 nights?
Yeah, I was honestly a completely different person. You could
Amazing.
you could just see it in me. My mood was completely lifted. I had plans for the future. You know, I had more trips that we were going to do. I had new friends that weren't involved in my past. So, you know, we had things to look forward to together. We had lots in common. I was literally like a completely different person.
That's brilliant. And it's really lovely to hear kind of the transformation that you've made through that. I had a similar experience. Like when I hit rock bottom, my relationship broke down, but actually kind of it was my decision to walk away. And so kind of I went on a journey, and I had that thought of, you know, this is really exciting. I've got a blank page ahead of me. And there were so many things I had compromised on that I wasn't able to do in my relationship, that I didn't realise until it was too late, that they were all the things that I really loved doing that made me happy.
Yeah.
So I was excited to have that blank canvas in front of me. I wanted to recreate kind of what was going on. And I think adrenaline really kind of like took me a good kind of 6-8 months into that, because I suddenly had all this freedom. But actually around about, I want to say it was probably about 8 or 9 months in, that I had this real kind of like moment that just shot me down onto rock bottom. And I ended up kind of in a really, really low place. And it was at that point kind of when I reached out to look for what support I could get, kind of was then just searching for anything that I wanted, you know, that would help me move forward. And that was at the point when kind of I was found Sara. I was introduced to her originally from kind of her book that she's mentioned, because I'd ordered that earlier on in kind of my breakup, in order to be able to help me find some ways to move forward, but then had decided that I was going to invest in myself. We've talked a lot about that in terms of taking time out for me to actually kind of process what was going on. And I actually attended the retreat. And it's the combination between kind of attending the retreat and the first initial conversation that I had with Sara that made me realise that there was a possibility that I could use my breakup as a real kind of catalyst to start doing something different. So I've had 25 years experience in learning and development in my career. And I realised I had so many transferable skills that I could then apply to help other people. And I've always been centred around this purpose in my life, around making a positive difference in other people's lives and helping them. It was something that I focused on in my career. And now this gave me an opportunity to be able to do it. So hence I decided to train to be a divorce coach with Sara. So I not only have gone through my breakup, created that life, but I've now got a whole new business. And I no longer work in the corporate organisation. I'm working for myself now. So somebody mentioned earlier on, you know, one of those things that they've got on their bucket list is about start a business for themselves. And it was something that I've always wanted to do. So that's why I'm on this mission to tell you guys, you know, this breakup or your divorce, the breakdown of your relationships, it doesn't have to mean the end. It can actually be a really exciting catalyst to make a big difference. But Jenny, what was your experience like?
Well, I just want to add to what you've both talked about there. I made the decision after 30 years marriage to walk away. Literally did not have a plan at all. And the struggle I found was in the numerous decision making. But one thing I did have was a mantra in my head that I kept remembering, which was trust life, trust life. And, you know, you might have different opinions about, you know, the universe and, you know, it's all about alignment and everything. But when you're in that position, I think you have to trust life, that there will be a path that will unfold. like you, Hayley and Sarah, you've got such hidden talents, and it's like, well, let's use them to the fore. Let's benefit, you know, people who are in a similar stage as ourselves, and you know, it'd be an ambassador that there is life beyond breakup and divorce. But it's about trusting life, even if you don't know what the path is in front of you, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's what you make of it, isn't it? We only have one chance on the planet. Yeah, so I think struggling it is a hard one, and we all go through it, and we're all there, and we're all alongside you all. So yeah, interesting. What was the second result there as well, Hayley, on the...
Let's see if I can just pop it up again. There we go. So the second result there was 34% being really stuck and needing that clarity.
Oh, well, yeah, I can relate to this. So I mentioned about decisions. I think when you do go through a breakup or divorce or separation, you have so many decisions that you have to make, and then in some way you can reach decision fatigue. My classic one was I bought a new house as a result of my breakup, and a simple, absolutely simple decision I had to make was buy some tea towels for my new kitchen. And I just stood there, and my level of anxiety looking at these tea towels, do I go for yellow, do I go for blue, do I go for check, you know? And I know it's trivia, but when you are having to make so many decisions at one time, it can really paralyze you. So my tip there would be, make a decision. Doesn't matter if it's the great one, wrong one, you have to take a U-bend, whatever, you know, or go around and around about numerous times. Just make a decision, because you can always tweak that decision afterwards. And the other thing is breathe. I think breathe before, take a pause and breathe before you make a decision. Get grounded. A good way actually is just to get in touch with your abdomen when you're breathing, because you've got your vagus nerve there, and your vagus nerve, which is one of your cranial nerves, is a wandering nerve that goes right down to your abdomen. And by breathing into your abdomen, it naturally calms you. Another way is just to massage the back of your neck as well. And that reduces your level, excuse me, your level of anxiety. But by taking big breaths as well, because you need 20% of all oxygen for your brain in order to operate. When you think about it, your brain is quite small in comparison to the rest of your body. So if you are in a heightened state of anxiety and you're breathing very quickly, you're not necessarily taking that full 20% of oxygen. So you can get into a level of anxiety, the fight, the flight, and the freeze scenario. And that's what faced me when I was buying my tea towels. I call it my tea towel moment. What about you, Sarah, with your positive psychology?
I can definitely relate to that as well, because when we split up, we were in the process of renovating a house, and we'd taken it back to bare brick and everything. And I had so many decisions to make, and I really struggled not having anyone to bounce the ideas off. I really, really found that difficult. But I agree with you, Jenny. I think it's about making a decision, because at least then you feel like you're taking a step forward, and you're taking action, and you're getting some of your control back as well. So definitely just have the confidence to make a decision. And you know, nothing really is irreversible, so you can always change your mind, but just making that decision makes you feel so much better.
Definitely.
I can see in the chat a couple of people, there's loads of comments, guys. You keep bringing your stories and sharing with us, because it's brilliant. And although kind of we're running on for another 5 minutes in this slot, we are going to be here at 5 o'clock at the end of the session, so that we can have a bit more of a chat with you around kind of some of these situations, and we'll try and cover off as much as we can. But I would encourage you, like if any of you are really kind of struggling with that clarity, this is where kind of you get your greatest value from working with one of us as your coach, because we can help you explore those areas. Quite often kind of we can utilize, you know, our questioning techniques, our strategies and our tools, just to help shine a light into those darker areas that you're probably avoiding because you don't want to look into them, because it just feels a little bit scary. So actually working kind of hand in hand with one of us as your coach, we can actually help you connect with those, try and shine a light on that and help give you that clarity that you need, but in a safe environment so that you're fully supported. So if you want to explore what that looks like, then you can book the discovery calls with us. They're free of charge. It's just 20 minutes and there's absolutely no commitment up front. Just chat to us about kind of what your biggest kind of like fears or priorities are, and we can help you understand how we might be able to help you through that and if coaching is right for you. But many of these areas that we've talked about are really about making that connection with being able to get the clarity. Quite a few of you were talking about codependency and being kind of in that frozen state of not being able to make those decisions. So we can help you, hold your hand kind of to take you out of the codependency, start making those small decisions for yourself as you go along, even if they are as small as choosing the tea towels like Jenny mentioned, or maybe just some changes that you want to make at home. They're just little things that will start you on the path, because the confidence that will then help you make and build your self-esteem by knowing that you can rely on yourself to make some of those decisions. Is this path back to who you are and a path back to finding yourself and building your confidence? And these are all things, as I say, as coaches, we can help you with. So is there anything in the that you've seen in the comments or the chat that you want to pull out, guys, in the last couple of moments that we're together with you? Jenny, Sarah?
Well, I think just one thing I would like to say, not necessarily from the chat, but just not lose hope in your situation. I mean, I can honestly say I've gone on to have an amazing life. I love my life now. And that is something that I never thought I would be able to say. So, you know, if nothing else, take hope from the three of us and how far we've come. And that is completely possible for you as well. So don't lose hope. It might be tough where you are at the moment, but you don't have to stay there. This is just a moment in your life and you will get through it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I would resonate that. I'm similar to yourself, Sarah. I absolutely love my life, and I just think it's a blessing that I took that step. And yeah, it took courage, took guts, but yeah, a happier person as a result.
And I've made no secret of the fact that I'm on a mission.
Your mission, we love it. Oh, thank you guys, you did an awesome job there. I think it really helps to hear from other people who've been through it, doesn't it, guys, and sharing their stories so openly with you about what they've been through, and you know, turning their pain into power. And that's really what they've done. They've taken their control back and gone through those tough times and turned them now into something where not only have they got to a different point in life, but also they're helping other people, which is awesome. And you can book a free call with them too. So thank you guys. And they'll be back at 5 to take your questions. So if there's anything else, they'll be back. Yes. Bye. Thank you ever so much. Right now, we are in for a treat. I am super excited. We have the amazing Natalie Page in the room. Now, I'm going to try and find, so I can spotlight her. Hayley, have you found her?
Hello.
There we go. Right.
I'm waving.
Yeah. That's my light. There she is. Oh, where have I gone? Okay, I'll leave that with you, Hayley. Right. So, Hayley, are you going to pop me back on? There you go. Right, now I can see what's going on. Brilliant. Natalie, hello, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. It's amazing to see you. I know you're very busy with all the work you do. I am a huge fan. Now, people listening and watching may know of your work, but if they don't, Natalie, please tell us about you and what you do.
Okay, hi everybody. Great to see you all today. It was nice to come in and have a listen to the discussions. So my name's Natalie Page, and I run a campaign called #TheCourtSaid. This campaign is to change the way domestic abuse is treated in the family court. So I realise that everybody on this call may not have been in an abusive relationship, so some of the stuff that I write about may not apply to you. But those are that we concentrate on domestic abuse cases, and we campaign to change the law and also the response to abuse in wider society as well.
And we did run a poll about, are you divorcing an abusive ex? And it was 54% said yes and 46% said no. All the information, though, that you talk about, Natalie, is really relevant. I think it's really important for increasing awareness. And, you know, so, I mean, you and I know the situation in the family courts. You know, if you are divorcing someone who's abusive, maybe should we start there, Natalie? What is abuse? How do you define it for the clients that you work with?
Abuse could be in many different forms, from emotional and psychological abuse to physical and sexual violence, child abuse, economic abuse, stalking and harassment. There's many ways in which people can be abused. So the most often we are dealing with coercive control cases, which is the pattern really that underpins all abuse. It's that pattern of coercive control and grooming that underpins the whole dynamic. So those are the sorts of cases that we're dealing with.
Coercive control is something that we hear a lot more of these days, but quite often people don't really either understand if you've never been in it, or maybe you might be in a relationship that's coercive controlling and not quite realize it. So Natalie, how would you describe, what are the signs, the red flags maybe, that you are in a coercively controlling relationship?
Well, there's many different red flags, but I guess the most common ones is that you probably start to notice that if you're a victim, you will start to notice maybe your circle's getting a lot smaller. It's a lot harder to hang out with friends and family. You know, they want your undivided attention all the time. This might be presented as love. A lot of people call it love bombing. I call it grooming. It's a grooming process. It is to cut off your support networks and isolate you for whatever next abuse is going to unfold. So it's all part of a strategy, and they know they're doing it.
But often people don't realise they're in those relationships, do they?
Well, it can happen very gradually. You know, it's quite insidious. One of my fellow campaigners, Rachel Williams, you might follow her page, Don't Look Back, she describes it as like carbon monoxide poisoning. By the time you are aware of the fact that you are in a coercive controlling situation, it is often too late. And you will be, for example, they will often the full extent of their behavior isn't always revealed, for example, until you are in some way invested. So you've had a child, you've bought a house, you've got married, you've moved in together, you know, all those sorts of what would normally be quite happy milestones are really leverage for an abuser, and sometimes utilized as a way to isolate and trap another person.
And it becomes normal as well, doesn't it? Because you, like, when you're in those relationships, you are made to feel very uncomfortable if you don't agree, or that if you stand up for yourself. So you kind of, they call it, don't they, normalizing and minimalizing the situation so that you stay where you are.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's like a gradual erosion of boundaries as well. You know, it can be something like, oh, well, you're a bit crap with money, so how about I handle the bills for a bit? And before you know it, you haven't got access to your bank card, and by the time that's happened, you're like, how did that happen? So it can really creep up, and then by the time you're in that situation, it can be quite difficult to then leave it.
Yeah, very difficult. I mean, Andrea's written, it was 30 years of gradual abuse, and he banked on me not having the strength or means to leave. I didn't even know I was being abused or gaslit. I mean, that's so common. I mean, you know, because when you're in that relationship, you do become very dependent on that person, especially in that scenario you just described there, Natalie, where they're controlling all the finances. So if you did leave, how would you financially survive? Because you wouldn't have access to any funds.
Yeah, and that you might have had a child or been persuaded to give up your job, or with the promise of things being great, and that that's the way that you're going to approach running your family. But then, of course, if they are a person who's got these abusive patterns, by the time you are in that situation, it is that the damage and the coercive control is sort of already done, because that's what will keep you there. And a lot of people don't really know and understand their own abuse, because it's intended to unsettle you. It's intended, the gaslighting and all the other sort of insidious communication patterns sort of just become the language of your relationship. You get used to it, it's what you know. And like I said, they gradually erode your boundaries until, like I said, when you've realised, you look back and you think, well, how didn't I know? But so many people don't. They don't, because it just becomes part of your everyday life, that level of control.
I didn't. And I hear from so many of my clients, well, I didn't think it happened to people like me.
Yeah, I'm not a victim, because I haven't got a black eye. He never hit me. He didn't have to. So, that's the perception. People, I remember thinking that as well. I left my abuser a long time ago, about a decade ago now. But when I left, although he, we had some sort of physical situations, I didn't have a black eye. Who was going to believe me? I didn't have a black eye. This can't have been that bad. Yeah.
That bad. Yeah, I hear that a lot. I mean, this is really resonating with a lot of people here. Susan's put, it fuels to your general worry of going out on your own. Hilary says, so much resonating. My ex never believed I would leave, and when I did, he kept asking me when I was coming back. Never. B says, the normalizing of coercive control behavior makes you doubt yourself. So when you do ever see a red flag, you doubt yourself. It's brainwashing. Now, red flags are there, but a lot of the time we'll miss them in the relationship. I mean, you may never have, some people will have seen these patterns before, and then that's why they get into those relationships. It's what they know and maybe what they believe a relationship should look like with that dynamic, maybe if they grew up in a household with abuse. But then other people won't have seen it and won't believe that anyone could possibly be that bad. So not see the warning signs and think, I must have got that wrong, right? Maybe they're just having a bad day. It can come in lots of different forms, right?
Yeah, it can do. And I wouldn't say that there was an exhaustive list of red flags, but there are some common things to look out for. So one of the most common ones is a relationship moving quite swiftly. They will push the pace. They will love bomb you. They will overstep your boundaries, but in a way that they can present as being a bit of a hero. So might make multiple visits to your work, but they're bringing flowers. So, stuff like that. So right in the beginning, sort of red flags like that. The story's not adding up as well. Lots of plot holes in the stuff that they're telling you, I would say, is red flags. And always, one thing I noticed is always positioning themselves as a hero, or having to point out how nice they are. Generally, nice people don't tell you they are nice. They don't come up to you and say, hi, I'm really nice, you're gonna love me. No, they don't. Okay, they just are nice. They don't have to declare it. In fact, that would be embarrassing for your average nice person. So these guys they will take great pains to tell you how good they are, but their behavior is not matching it.
There's more comments coming in here. Yes, he controlled all the finances. He's now crippling me financially and dragging out the divorce. He has his own business and deals in cash, so it's difficult to prove. I mean, that's something that I'm sure you see I do all the time.
Yeah, that's the proverbial brick wall, really, to back your head up against, because if they are concealing money like that,
I can see the thing moving. Yeah, so there's a big, massive hole in it.
Oh, hang on a second.
Doing it.
Right, guys, just be careful. If you're not on mute, we can hear you. Right, go on, Natalie. Very difficult to confront concealing
you know, financial misdeeds like hiding cash and stuff like that. It's very, very difficult for a survivor of abuse to navigate economic abuse because the systems that deal with it, they don't really investigate. Like the CMS say they have powers, like, you know, they can take a passport, they can pursue them, they can do X, Y, Z. If the money is not hitting HMRC, they can only do so much. So it can be quite frustrating. So I think in all instances, the best thing you can do is just try and be as self-sufficient and resilient as you possibly can in the face of that kind of difficulty, and seek advice from organisations like Surviving Economic Abuse, who have got a wealth of resources to help.
Isn't that brilliant? I mean, I did an interview with Nicola Sharp-Jeff. She's amazing. She does so much good work there. So, I mean, I really, you know, I mean, people were saying this happens, but sometimes you won't expect it. You leave someone and you think, right, I'm out of the toxic relationship now. But that post there about, you know, going through the divorce, obviously that toxic behavior doesn't just disappear. It then transfers, doesn't it, onto the divorce process, which is why this is so difficult. And even, I mean, I remember being told by my lawyers, well, when you're out, then at least you're out of that toxic environment. So it hit me like a big surprise to find, you know, that isn't the case, is it? Post-separation abuse is just all those different forms of abuse channeled into what comes after you leave.
Yeah, basically they'll find, if you're dealing with an abusive type, they will usually find whatever leverage they can. So if you are in the relationship, they'll be abusing you at home. If you are in the legal process and not in the relationship, then they'll be abusing you or attempting to through the legal process. They find it very difficult to stop, regulate their behaviour. In fact, we notice that with domestic abusers that they don't really regulate the behaviour or learn very well. They don't appear to have much insight into the impact of their actions on other people. So whatever process you're in, if you are dealing with an abusive type, be prepared that it might get quite complicated.
And you would think that you could rely on the legal professionals to help you through that, Natalie, would you not?
Well, in a lot of instances, you know, legal professionals do an amazing job. There's some wonderful lawyers out there who really do understand the difficulties domestic abuse presents to families. I mean, within the family law process, we're talking about arrangements for children, and with domestic abuse, we're also talking about sometimes some quite significant safeguarding concerns. So lawyers in those instances can be very helpful in helping a mum and children find and secure safety. That being said, not enough lawyers truly understand the challenges that are faced by families leaving abuse. So there's a certain gap in knowledge there. So I would make sure, if you are looking to hire solicitors and you are dealing with an abusive type, that you do your research well and find one that does understand.
I couldn't agree with you more. That there are some great legal professionals who have actually taken the time to understand domestic abuse, or maybe they were survivors themselves along the way, but there are some people that are really championing the cause of, and so they are the people that I would recommend you seek out, find and use as your lawyer, because if they understand it, there's a couple of benefits. One, they're going to be able to understand you and be some support to you there, but also they're going to understand how to navigate the divorce process, because that gaslighting, the distracting, the confusing and the lying will just come out with, say, the Form E, which is the financial documents you put together to work out what money there is. That the confusing behavior will be there, the lies will be there, so things won't be completed, or they'll send a spreadsheet over 30 pages and it's not formatted, or it will be late, or never send it at all, or deny knowledge of things with big gaps. So this is how it translates into the divorce process. So if you have a legal professional who's advising you through that, if they understand this, then they're not going to increase your costs hugely, because they're going to get it. and they're going to know how to walk the line with that, because going back and saying we need this, we need that, they can play with that, can't they? They can abuse even that, and then you get into extremely huge costs.
Exactly. And sometimes having a cheaper option, sometimes we don't have any choice, like domestic abuse survivors. It's not uncommon that our bank accounts are emptied, we flee with just the clothes on our back with young children. These sorts of scenarios are quite common with domestic abuse. But in terms of like lawyers and costs and stuff like that, if you are in a position where you are thinking about private hiring a lawyer, sometimes you might be put off by one that's slightly more expensive, but if they understand the problem, it would be a false economy going for a cheaper one who doesn't, because you'll be in court for so much longer. You'll probably spend 10 times what you would have with a lawyer who can just cut through all of that rubbish, all the moving of the goalposts, hiding information, omitting stuff, not admitting to stuff. There's a lot of information that comes into these cases, lots and lots of paperwork. You need someone that can really cut through that. And I saw in the chat someone asked about, I can't see who asked for it now, but whoever asked for if a forensic accountant was a good idea. I would say that if you are dealing with financial impropriety and people hiding money, that a forensic accountant is a good idea.
Yes, because what forensic accountants do, guys, if those of you who don't know, is that they will look at, for example, the bank statements which you're supposed to be able to exchange during this process, and they'll be able to pull threads. So, for example, if there's money missing, but then lots of transfers into a certain account, they can pull those threads and say, well, where's this money going? And they can start to unravel, and they're trained to do that. Although, again, there's a cost sometimes substantial to that. But if you know there's money that's missing, then that could be something that would be useful. It's interesting that Natalie, right, reading is Tammy says, man oh man, I think you should give that poll again. Now that I'm hearing the descriptions of their behavior, I think I need to change my answer to yes. And someone else is saying yes, me too. Let's see what else. It's so Angela's one of my coaches, and she's saying it's common not to recognize what you've been through. Like Natalie said, you don't have to hit someone to hurt them. It's very, very wise. Yes, and then forensic accountants, we went to relate, and I explained my story, and he said it was abuse to him, totally turning the tables. How do we find someone who understands? Natalie's nodding at this.
Right.
Go Natalie.
Now,
go.
This one is a big subject, so I'm going to try and condense it. Okay. One of the biggest challenges facing domestic abuse survivors who have children who are in the family court are counter allegations of parental alienation. So usually these allegations surface in response to domestic abuse allegations. So we did a survey with Channel 4 this year ahead of our film coming out, which was the Channel 4 Dispatches Torn Apart, Family Courts Uncovered. That was by Channel 4, and it was released this summer. And they found that 80% of domestic abuse survivors reporting abuse will then be counter-alleged to be alienators. So if you're saying, hang on a minute, I've got some reservations here about the safety of contact, because he's done X, Y, Z to me, quite harmful things, or children may have witnessed it, that children might be frightened of someone who has harmed them. Okay, what the purpose of a parental alienation allegation is to turn the tables on the victim. So it is a deflection, and it can quite often refocus a case quite dramatically, in fact, and the victim is then positioned as the abuser and the perpetrator is positioned as the victim. So it can be quite spectacular, which is why you'll see me talking about it a lot on Twitter, because I'd say it's the biggest threat to women's rights, actually, this century.
No, I'm totally with you on that, and I think it's shocking, and people don't realise this is going on. I mean, the Dispatches programme was horrific, but it happens, and it happens to lots of different people, and it is disgusting what goes on. I'm always shocked at these stories that you hear, and there seems to be so much conflict of interest within the court system, because in order to get found guilty of parental alienation. You kind of already are. If you're a victim of abuse and allege that, well, and say there was abuse, and maybe my child doesn't want to go because they're scared of this person, maybe they have a, you know, reason, then what happens to the child's voice? Because there's some pretty strict laws on, you know, Children's Act, and children should never be forced to go anywhere that's unsafe. Why is that not happening? As the dispatches program showed, that children are being forced to go and spend time, even by police, to go and spend time with the other half. And we're saying, I know you've used the female and male, and you know, it does happen both ways round. We have to say that, but predominantly it's mainly a female issue. Yeah. So that's why we slide into that.
Yeah, it pretty much is women being accused of alienation, for sure. I mean, it's positioned as something that which they say is a crime committed by mothers, except for it isn't a crime. And how it happens is that if a child is expressing negative emotions or fear or reluctance or even an outright rejection, like I really don't want this person around me, what will happen is some professionals, not all of them, there are some good professionals out there, but there's very many that would hear a child's disclosure of abuse, for example, and instead of thinking that the most probable reason a child would disclose abuse is because they've experienced it, they think, oh, who put you up to that? And 9 times out of 10, they will be looking at the mother. And that's the essence of a parental alienation allegation. It is the disbelief of a child reporting abuse, fear, or reluctance in spending time with the other parent.
And also, sometimes children, depending on their age, are not capable of explaining some of the things they've witnessed or seen. And remember, coercive control for us to explain is pretty hard because it's small, insidious things that could be done. You know, I've got a client at the moment whose partner calls her fatty bum bum. And, you know, he means it in a nice way, but it's not nice. And it's damaging her confidence. And it's like, oh, you know, that's what I love about you. You're still going to wear that dress even though your arms are a bit podgy, but good for you, you know, and things like that, you know. And so we find it hard to sort of say, well, this is what this is. So how can a child possibly be, you know, expected to explain that to an adult?
Exactly. And, you know, they'll explain, very young children will explain in their behaviour. I mean, for those of us who have been through with trying to get a reluctant child to contact because you've been ordered to do it by the court, will know that very young children will tell you, usually with you know, crying and screaming and sort of having a bit of a meltdown, you know, they're just distressed, so they will tell you in their distressed behavior. Older children obviously can verbalize this, but it's how it's interpreted that's the problem. And you know, and if people in general, if they feel like they're not being listened to, they will try and cement their point, won't they? They will try and say, no, hang on a minute, I'm saying this to you. Now, children who are in that situation with professionals who aren't being believed, they know they're not being believed. Even little ones will know they're not being believed. And what they will do then is often sort of entrench that behavior and sort of be a little more adamant about it. So it can even entrench it rather than fix it just by ignoring a child's distress. So, you know, it's something that needs to be dealt with rather than sort of reframed and explained another way. So a distressed child wouldn't be viewed as a distressed child. It's viewed as an alienated child. So you're never going to fix the problem ever if you were looking in the wrong direction. You're not looking at why the child is distressed. You're actually looking to find another cause or reason for that distress, and that's a different type of scenario to be in for a kid.
I mean, to most of us, it doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And I think that's the challenge when you go into this system where you have so-called experts, you know, and I know you said that there were good ones. Okay, I'd like to see them, but yeah, I'm sure there are. But you know, most of the people that I've come across through my practice is, I mean, like someone's writing in here about she'd went to see somebody, and the ex had made up a story that she was sleeping with one of the teachers at school to get her son some help, and it was all lies. So she got up and left, and it was written up that she was disruptive, non-cooperative. Now, this is something that I hear all the time. I mean, reports that are just full of lies or, you know, very, you know, illogical conclusions from behaviors. And I think there's a lot of pressure put on mums or in these scenarios to not fall out with experts, to be compliant all the time, which again is disingenuous and also a breach of their human rights.
It is. It's it's a breach of their Article 3 rights, the right not to be put through inhumane or degrading treatment for a start. That's just the beginning. The big problem with rights, I think, with children here is when you reframing a child's disclosure, you are actually breaching their children's rights, and it can make for a very difficult childhood for them if they're having to navigate all that as well.
So, I mean, how can people cope if they're going through it, or they're going through that system with a very difficult ex? What's your advice, Natalie? I know you help a lot of people going through these situations.
Yeah, my advice is you've got to deal with it. You can't sort of just hope it's going to be okay. You've got to take active steps in your case to really learn how to advocate for yourself and your children in a system that might be committed to misunderstanding you. Okay, so sort of understanding your communication with the court and learning how to communicate in the way the court understands it. That doesn't mean suddenly become an amateur lawyer overnight. Quite the opposite. In fact, most of it's about demonstrating good parenting, especially for mums. Mums are very much at risk at the moment in family courts. The narrative out there is that the fathers are discriminated against and that they get a lot of injustice. Now, I'm sure they do experience some injustice. I'm not denying that. However, the biggest problem now, I think the pendulum has shifted over the years in the system, thanks to some quite robust lobbying, and women generally now are having a really hard time in court. So you need to know what you're dealing with, and you need to get prepared to navigate something that's going to take a while and it's going to be complex. Make sure you get a good support network around you. So that includes stuff for your personal support, like friends and family, but that also includes covering off things that you might need, like legal aid, legal support. If you can't afford a solicitor and you don't get legal aid, what options? How are you going to approach this? Have a good think about it, and then start reaching out for some resources, because there are resources out there that can help.
You provide some. Natalie, tell us where people can find out more about what you offer.
Yeah, if you just head to one of my websites, I can't remember the web addresses off the top of my head now. They've just left my head. Thecourtsaid.org. Go to thecourtsaid.org, and you'll find links on there. I wrote a course. This is specifically aimed at mothers who are domestic abuse survivors in family court. Okay, we do sometimes have a couple of men on the course, and that's fine. You're more than welcome. But it is written in the language that it is aimed at mothers. So if you're willing to look past that, we're willing to welcome you. But it is for domestic abuse survivors who are in family court, and it's aimed at mothers.
So it's thecourtsaid.org. I'm just popping it in the
chat. And also survivorfamilynetwork.com, as well as my other website, and you'll find lots of resources in there about post-separation abuse.
Survivorfamilynetwork.com, that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There we go. Yeah. So look, you're not on your own if you're going through this, but this is going on. So we can't go into these situations not aware. So if you're not sure if this is your case, someone's asked you how, it's a good question. It's a very good question by B. Is there anything you can put in place to ensure you don't get accused of parental alienation?
No, that's beyond your control, really. Getting accused of something, you can't control what the other person is doing. So the way that you would protect yourself against false allegations of parental alienation is really learning all the self-advocacy that you need to be able to demonstrate the stuff that you do on a daily basis to benefit your children. Because often a parental alienation allegation will get wrapped up into this whole unfit mother narrative. So a lot of care needs to be taken about, you know, the information that you're giving to the court in those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's things that you can do to improve your chances of being convicted of it, right, rather than accused. We can't control what your ex is going to do. If you know, when you're divorcing a difficult person, it's about annihilation. There's no fair result. There's no, we're trying to come to some solution for everyone that works. That's just not it. There's as much pain, as much suffering, as much hurt and heartache, stress, anxiety, all of the above, financial destruction. Annihilation is the word. It's not, it does get my goat when it's referred to as high conflict, because to me, it just makes me so angry, because that high conflict situation implies that both of you are being difficult. But when it's like, 100% someone is causing pain, the other person is just reacting to what's being thrown at them, that is not high conflict. That is abuse. Anything, where it's not a fair split is abuse. So, the high conflict, personally, I don't know if you agree with me on this, Natalie, or whether you'll go.
I do so much. I'm nearly giving you I'm giving you a round of applause for that little rant there, because I feel exactly the same.
But it's true. It's a cover up. It's a cover up term to cover up abuse. That's what it is. It
is. And, I think it's very misguided as well, because, if you're a respondent in one of these cases, then guess what? You don't have a choice to be there. So this is not a conflict that you get to walk away from, because, they'll order without you. You have to be there. You can't just ignore a court summons, right? So you haven't got a choice for a start. They're not looking at who the protagonist is. They're not looking at who's driving ever more interventions, ever more costs, ever more cases, ever more litigation. They just see this sort of conflict that you're both in, but they just fail to see that actually one of them does not have a choice to be there at all, but the other one does.
And you're and then you're in this situation where you have to be, in a lot of cases, very disingenuous, because you want to say, this is outrageous, this is ridiculous, they've done this, they've done that, because they're accusing you of, maybe someone's written in there having a personality disorder, or being the difficult one. You're being accused of everything that they are. It's classic. It's called mirroring, and it's one of the tactics. It's one of the red flags. It's one of the clear-cut signs that this person has their own personality disorder. So it's all the reflection on you. So you'll be painted out to be the bad guy. Now, the thing is, when you say, that's not me, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie, you say to the expert therapist, or this, I don't agree with that, this is wrong, you've misinterpreted that, that's not what you said, that's not what I'm doing, or the signs that you're saying are alienation, do you know, are actually identical to the signs that a child who's been abused may display. Then you get told you're difficult, you're very hard to work with, you're one of the most difficult clients they've ever had. All these things come out, and then they write a report saying, well, they're not very easy to get on with. I believe that they're very bitter and twisted. They're probably still in love with their ex. You get all this coming back, and so you are then painted as the difficult one.
I think it's very easy for the court to play into all these sort of like societal like stereotypes we have about this sort of like embittered ex-wife who's just out to make her ex-husband's life a misery, and I think that the court really needs to evolve from that. And the other problem with alienation and similar types of narratives, like with the personality disorders, is a lot of these aren't independently observable, and one person's protective action may well be what an expert says, oh, that's an alienating behaviour. And also bearing in mind that alienation behaviours, I believe, can be unconscious, according to those who promote this theory. So you can even do it telepathically. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that extremely worrying in a court of law, that it can be that a case can be hinged on such fuzzy and woo-woo basis like that. It just does not seem to be credible.
But it isn't. It's not credible. It's absolutely ludicrous, and it's just, it's a scourge at the moment, and it's something that is, there's so many people facing this, and yet to the outside world it's not talked about, because the family courts, you can't discuss it, can you? Because they want to protect the children. And again, the irony of this is, well, listen to them. take them at face value. You know, I've had cases where the child hasn't even been allowed to speak to theirs because they're suffering from delusions. But then they've created all these things that are going to happen to this child, having never, ever spoken to them. You know, when do children have a voice? And it should be, you know, always, but it's not. It's not.
It should be, you know, it should be. And, you know, children should be listened to. And, you know, sometimes children will communicate difficult things as part of a divorce. And if they are reporting things which are safeguarding concerns, really, it's quite a callous thing to do. If a child was sat in front of you telling you, you know, I have been harmed, the last person that you would want to send them to is the person who's harmed them. But that's exactly what's happening in the family court because they're not listening to children properly. So they'll hear children, they'll hear what the children are saying, but they'll interpret it and they'll translate that to mean something else. So really the child's voice just needs to be centralized and better understood.
And that can lead to, you know, all sorts of things. The child being removed from the victim of the abuse and given to the perpetrator to live, or them getting more access, or even, I think there was a case that Louise Tickle reported on very recently where the mother had to pay for some of the contact with the abuser. Yeah, I mean, that Charlotte Proudman, love her too. She got that overturned in the Court of Appeal. Fantastic work she's doing. It's amazing. Dr. Charlotte Proudman, if you follow her on Twitter, she's doing incredible work. I mean, there are people campaigning like Natalie, like Louise Tickle, like Charlotte, trying to shine a light on this, but it's still happening. And the trauma is for the kids and the victims of abuse as well, the survivors coming out the other side. And there's no support for that, is there, Natalie?
Very little, very, very little that anyone can do. And the other challenge is in terms of support, especially anything sort of in a medical arena, is notes, because often part of a parental alienation allegation, it will be casting doubt over whether you have traits of some kind of vague personality disorder or other disorders. So they will often go for all your medical notes. So that can actually really hinder a family's recovery because they are almost blocked from the off from accessing some support, which could have probably been very helpful to them.
Someone's just popped on the chat. A friend, can a school help? Can the school help? Yeah, what do you think?
Sometimes they can, but sometimes, do you know what, they can hinder, and I see them hindering families quite a lot, and I think it's to do with again, lack of awareness. For example, the people that promote parental alienation as a theory will often, and they have been for many years, targeting schools to sort of further the understanding of this theory, which has been, by the way, robustly and scientifically discredited. Okay, so it shouldn't be used, but they often go in and train professionals and schools in all sorts of fields. So what happens then is, if a child is showing some reluctance, the teacher might write down, I think it's parental alienation, not knowing any better, not knowing if the friendly guy, the father at the school gates, he seems all right, but they don't know him. They don't know what he's like behind closed doors, but they'll quite happily vouch for him. And they don't always know that also I'm saying the mum here, it usually is the mum and the father. So this is why I'm positioning it like that. Sorry to the guys on the call. So what often happens is that mum can't share that paperwork to say, yeah, actually there's credible allegations of abuse, or there's a case in progress, or they're waiting for a decision from CPS, for example, because that paperwork is it's within the court process. You're not allowed to share it. So the school can make a snap decision like that and write something down. The minute it's written down once, anywhere, even just as a suggestion by anybody, then usually the other side, the abusive party, will use that statement and it will be used quite significantly in the case.
Yeah, again, that leads on to how some law firms, not all, but some will weaponize this as a way to enable their clients to get access to their kids. It makes a law firm a lot of money because these cases, you know, tend to be very drawn out, tend to be a lot of paperwork, a lot of phone calls, there's a lot of stress and anxiety, but they become the mouthpiece for the abuse in a lot of cases.
Yeah, they really do have like a contact at all cost narrative. Now, in an ideal world, that, you know, what single mum, right, really wouldn't want a break? Okay, I'm a 24/7 single mum, and I can tell you it's knackering. Okay, I really do wish I had a sane, safe co-parent to do this with. You know, but I think if a mother and a child, or mother and child, do have issues with contact, it's usually for a good reason, because, you know, us mums, once we've divorced and we've got our head around the general grief that you'd find with any divorce, and, you know, you're going it alone, life changes quite dramatically. When you walk in that path, you know, you start to find things that you really like, and you know, you're moving on, you want to make a life for yourself. Well, that takes time, and you know, and a safe co-parent really helps that process. So it would be great if people could do that. Unfortunately, what we find is abusive partners can't co-parent. They don't co-parent, they counter-parent. So it becomes really quite a long and drawn out challenge.
So just a few tips, Natalie, on how to manage the parenting situation with somebody like that.
That's very, very difficult. I would say keep your boundaries high. Try not to react. Certainly don't react too quickly, and outside of an emergency situation, obviously. I often find that the women I speak to are getting quite stressed with the level of communication that they get from an abuser. So an abusive type will be quite relentless in their communication. So quite often I say, well, you know, you could have like a designated email address and only open it on certain days of the week. So if there's anything that does need to be discussed between you, you can do it in writing via email, but you're not beholden to that. You know, you look at that on a certain day of the week, and then you can just sort of, it doesn't become too intrusive then. If it's sort of coming through to your phone and it's right in your face, it can feel quite pressurized. So I think try and take some of the pressure out of it as you can, and manage it as best you can with the communication. Definitely get some really good legal help. Read as much as you can as well, understand what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and check out Natalie's websites, because again, they're invaluable. I mean, this is what Natalie specializes in. She helps people all over the world with these things. This is, you know, this is something that is, you know, really tough to handle on your own, but you're not alone. It's not your fault, and you're not alone. And thank goodness we have people like Natalie doing the work she's doing. And there's been so many questions. I mean, we can't answer them all, unfortunately. Just one here, people are saying, you know, my ex is saying everything's his pension, his house, his this, his that, his that. This is typical, right, Natalie?
Yeah, very typical. Often an abusive type will be quite entitled, usually. They've got a strong sense of entitlement. So he may well view everything as his, including you. So yeah.
Yes, well said, including and the kids. Possessions.
Yeah, possessions, chattel, call it what you will. Yeah, so I think the guy, I'm trying to read the message here. I think some financial legal advice would be the best thing there. I think he'll find that it's probably not his. He might have to share.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, it's literally, you've got to pick your battles, but you need to look after you, because, you know, you
Definitely.
will feel like the only sane person in the asylum being the family court system, and you'll come out and your friends and family will say, yeah, but just tell them this, and we'll quite, yeah, but you know, you're a great parent, and you know, and you're like, yeah, I know, but then you'll go in and be like, but this and this and this, and you're like, but that's not true, and you twisted that, and it can be really, really difficult. So do know that if there are people that understand, the people that get it and can give you the best advice possible. But as Natalie said, you know, you need to get the right legal support for this. Someone asked if it's difficult to swap lawyers. It can be just because of the expense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be, and it's not always advisable. If you've had someone on your case for quite a while, and if your case is particularly complex, for example, I'd be very wary of moving firms unless they're really not doing the job for you. What I would say is that you are instructing your solicitors, okay? So if you're not happy with how they're doing and you think that they should be doing more, tell them and ask what your options are. And if you're really not happy, go and seek a second opinion somewhere. And if they don't resolve it, then you can go through a formal complaint process, and then you can change your legal team.
Yeah, again, you've got to complain to the law firm that you're unhappy with. So that's a tough one. But yes, I mean, unfortunately, the family court system needs to do a lot of evolving, as you started out saying, but you've said it in a much calmer way than I do. So thank you for that. And thank you. I mean, you've been phenomenal as always. Do check Natalie out. She's on #TheCourtSaid on her social media. Follow her, support her. She's doing amazing work. She's helping so many vulnerable women right now and children. So thank you, Natalie, for everything that you do.
No problem. And have a great rest of the retreat, guys. And thank you for having me. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Natalie.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. I mean, amazing. She's amazing. I'm so glad she came on. I know she's super busy, but it was great to have her on. I know that would have helped a lot of you. Someone put a question in about what book can you read? Guys, I cover a lot of these topics. Like I've interviewed Natalie, who just had on, also on my podcast, Heartbreak to Happiness. Do check out these episodes, because if you're going through it, they are literally what you need to get you through. Also, Rachel Watson. Rachel has written a book called How to Annihilate a Narcissist in the Family Court. It's only a little book. You can get it on Amazon, and it's literally your Bible for knowing how to represent yourself and get through those really tough times. Rachel's phenomenal as well. She's got an amazing blog which covers a lot of this, and you'll think she's actually in your shoes going through it with you when you read what she's talking about. She is amazing. Also, you could follow Rachel Williams, who I know that Natalie mentioned. She was in a domestically violent relationship and her ex ended up shooting her. She survived, which is why she's here telltale, but unfortunately her 16-year-old son committed suicide through it, and she's come out the other side and she campaigned. She's Welsh, she's amazing, she speaks out a lot. She's another person that also shares some really good advice as well. Yes, and Hayley, she's amazing. She's put How to Annihilate a Narcissist in the Family Court, and it's Rachel Watson is the author of that book. So I suggest you check it out. Right. I know that's a bit of a heavy topic, isn't it? It's a bit heavy, and I do get a little bit ranty. So let me calm down, because my next guest is very different. She's the antidote to that. She's going to bring us a little sparkle, a little cheer. We have the amazing Suzanne Bernie, who is here. Hi, Suze.
Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you all.
So Suze is stylist to the stars. She has worked with some phenomenal people. Suze, tell us a little bit about the work you do, because it's not just about styling. You do so many things. So just put us in the picture and cheer us all up.
Okay, so lovely to see all of you out there. I work very closely with many different areas of people, male, female, LGBTQ plus, everybody that just needs to have a little bit of a helping hand when getting dressed. And you don't necessarily have to have gone through a crisis, but boy, does it help if you have. I originally started in TV, costume design for television and music videos and fashion shoots for magazines. And then I went into styling private clients and personal clients and people that needed help for whatever reason. And that's really my route to market. I met Sara. I don't know if you want to say, or shall I say?
Yeah, well, I can share that story. So
you share.
So Suze was a present for me for Valentine's Day from my ex's PA. So he didn't actually know he bought it, but he asked the PA to get me a present, and it was Suze. And she came to my house. So I was married at the time, And she did a wardrobe detox, which is like how she kind of starts out. Really, she comes to your house if you wanted to, and she went into my little wardrobe. And she was sort of picking out things just to understand what my style was, what I had, so we didn't buy more stuff that would go with the stuff I already had. You know, so it was a really good way of doing things. And we were trying things on, and I was like, oh, I just don't feel good in anything. I was still married at this time. And I hadn't lost my baby weight because I was in quite a toxic relationship. So, you know, it wasn't great for the self-esteem. And then I burst into tears with Suze, who never met me. And I was standing there like half dressed with like clothes hanging off me and crying. And she was like, oh my goodness. And I said, I don't think my husband loves me anymore. I don't know what's going on, but I just feel unattractive and unloved. And so that's when our friendship really took off. She sort of scooped me up and helped me. So I know that what Suze does really works. And if you're going through a tough time, she really can help put a little bit of sparkle back and start making you feel more comfortable about who you are. And Suze and I are very different. We have very different styles, don't we, Suze? So,
absolutely. And it doesn't matter what style. And I always say to my clients, I'm not going to dress you like I dress. For me, I'm going to dress you for how you look, your body shape, your hair coloring, everything, right? Your skin tone, and of course, most importantly, your budget. So that is how we met, and it was a huge eye opener to the world of the power of dressing and how it can completely change the way you see yourselves and the way other people see you. And then in return, I mean, we all love a compliment. And the way it makes you feel when you get that compliment about how you dress. And that's really the way that I'm working closely with people now.
One of the things that stands out about Suze is that she's really lovely. So, you know, if you start crying, she knows exactly what to say. She doesn't make you feel awkward, and she really knows how to pick you up and go, right, come on. So, you know, that's why I recommend Suze to a lot of my clients, because I know that, having been there myself, what a positive influence she was on my life and how she really listened to me. And the benefit I got from the styling session, in not just in the house, but then when we went out and we were looking for clothes to fill those gaps, really gave me a boost. So, Suze, I wanted to get
I just wanted to say that I think that we all need to have that little bit of a helping hand. And there's one thing going shopping or having a best friend or a mum or a sister or even a daughter to say, what do you think? What do you think to this? But a lot of people don't want to hurt your feelings or don't want to maybe say it how it should be. I'm a pretty straight talker, and I like to make it right for you. So it's even if it's in the kindest way, it's got to be right for your body shape. And it doesn't, and I'm not saying you need to lose weight in order to do it or gain weight. It's exactly as you are. So getting it right today is about how you feel when you open your wardrobe. So I always say to my clients, how do you feel when, and I'm asking you ladies, how do you feel when you open your wardrobe? Is it, does it fill you with despair? Does it fill you with confidence? Do you think, oh my God, I've got so many clothes and nothing to wear? Is it all black, grey? And so that is the way we take small steps forward to make it work for you and your lifestyle.
We actually have a poll. Everyone on today will know we love a poll on this webinar. Hayley's got the poll ready to go. Here we go. So, how confident do you feel in your style? So, not confident at all, a little confident, average, working on it, or completely confident? Let's have a look and see where we are. Oh, it's good, isn't it, Susie? You can see where everyone is.
That's
in the
brilliant.
audience. And then you can, if you want to drop in the chat later when we're taking the poll down, a bit more detail or any questions for Suze, do, because she's here and she's here to help. So let's see. So not at all confident, 19%. A little it's moving around still a bit. A little confident, 18%. Average is 36%. So that's the biggest category. Working on it, 20%. Good. Taking action. And 7% completely confident. So smallest group there, Suze.
And I'm already seeing from Angelina, who says all her wardrobe is black. So there you go. Yeah, it is such a huge topic, dressing. buying, choosing, selecting, loving you. Sorry, I'll just move that out of the way. Loving what you see when you look in the mirror. I'm just going to take 2 seconds to just read you something that I got from a client who is going through similar things. Post-breakup, I used to panic when I got dressed every morning. I used baggy clothes to hide myself and my personality, as I thought it would be easier to blend into the background. This went on for 5 months until my therapist pulled me aside at the end of a session and said, "You need to show people what a diamond you are. You deserve the world." But she didn't recognize herself anymore. She'd lost weight, her hair had changed color, she didn't have the clothes, and she needed somebody to help her realize how amazing she was. And so she did. She took the bull by the horns. She contacted me. I went to her home. Booking a wardrobe detox made me get back into the world of the living. And my recovery started from March to summer. I didn't want to hide anymore, panic each day about what to wear, start crying again about how people viewed me. Suzanne fitted in to help me recognize my potential again and make me feel I was worthy of shining once again. She gave me the strength to move on and find happiness. Now, that's just one client out of hundreds who were able to articulate the difference between before and after, and they have since found a partner and found the strength to fall back in love with themselves.
Sorry, I was on mute there. So, I mean, you do amazing work, and I've seen it firsthand. But you have to be in a place, don't you, where you think, right, I'm ready for this. Because when you're going through the initial stages, and where I first met you, was I was wearing juicy tracksuits every day. That was back in the day when those sort of velvet tracksuits were in. So our whole wardrobe, I just wore those the whole time. And I know someone's popped in the chat here that they just wear sportswear all the time, which I think is what a lot of people started doing, elasticated waist during lockdown, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And that is kind of dangerous. I mean, I have to say, I also fell into it, as we all did. We're not going anywhere. We're getting out of bed. We're literally from shower to why wear clothes that are going to constrict you. However, it was so beneficial. I made myself put my jeans on a couple of times a week because I forced myself into, do they still fit? Are they as comfy as they were before? I was determined to come out of this in better shape than I went into it, because it was so easy to fall into that, the never ending, I just want to be cozy, I just want to be warm, I just want to feel secure, I just want that soft cozy fabric next to my skin, forget the constraints of work clothes. Now, obviously people were doing Zoom calls, and from the waist up they had to look good. But it was it was a good exercise to keep trying on those clothes that you love and that are in the wardrobe already.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep tapped in. I mean, Stephen's just popped in. Since his separation, he's just T-shirts and jeans. The interest has gone. And I think that's it. Can you be bothered? So how do you get, I mean, obviously you can force yourself to do it, but are there some things that we can do to get people excited, Suze, about, trying to change those habits that we've got into?
I think it definitely is starting with a positive frame of mind, because obviously there's a big differentiation between being sad because you've lost a partner or a husband, wife, whatever, and you now need, there are lots of, I'm not going to pretend that clothes are going to heal your heart at the early stages of your situations that a lot of you are in. However, they are so powerful towards the end and towards bringing you back into I can do this, I look fabulous, and I'm going to feel sexy, because there's no rules, that no one says you can't feel sexy, male, female, or whatever. And I'm going to be out there and I'm going to show myself for what I am. So it's all about your body positivity. So if I were to say, where do you start? You start by opening your wardrobe. You start by saying, do I like what I see? Does it bring me joy? If I put something on, will it change my mood from being miserable to being positive? Not saying you're going to, it's going to solve all your problems, but it's going to make you be able to cope better in order to get to that positive end. So that's my main thing. And it is a long drawn out process, which is why I'm very, it's a busy service of mine to come to your home and to go through your wardrobe, which means, when was the last time you tried everything on? I know you're saying, what is she talking about, trying everything on? When was the last time you literally tried pieces that are tucked way back in the corner of your wardrobe? Is there anything in there, first of all, that makes you sad? Is there anything there that was bought for you by your ex, was bought because you thought they may like it? Get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Charity, resell, friends, family, just get rid. You don't need to have that heartache when you open the wardrobe. You need to feel joy. So that would be my first place to start. Look through it, look through all your wardrobe. What do I wear? Do I wear it? Pick it out. Does it give me pleasure? No, it doesn't. It goes in the pile to go.
What about the things that you don't fit into anymore, but you hope to fit into again one day?
Okay, so there's got to be a size. If it's 3 sizes too small or 3 sizes too big, I think you've got to think of alterations. Loads of people don't think of alterations, even when you're just shopping for if your bust is bigger, if your inside leg, if your shoulders are wider. You can alter all sorts of things and make incredible garments out of them. So for the pieces that you've held on to, obviously, if you've held on to them since you were a young teenager and you're hoping to get back into them, that may be a challenge. But if it is just a matter of, I've gone 2 sizes up, but I know I'm going to get my head around it. I know I'm going to go back to those garments. Take them out your wardrobe, fold them up, put them somewhere else for now. You can reintroduce yourself to them and let them work again. But right now, let's get them out your wardrobe so you've got space and you're not looking at them every day thinking, oh, those were the pieces I promised myself I'd fit into and I haven't done it. No pressure. Don't put yourself under the pressure. Feel happiness and then you'll be able to fit into those again if you want to.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Andrew's just popped in the chat. My friend and I had the same jumper. I have since discovered she was one of my husband's women. I've sold the jumper on Vinted. Felt so good to get rid. Well done.
High five. High five.
I mean, it does, those things. Yeah, I mean, that's just really tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And I think a good detox, wardrobe, your whole house when you're going through a breakup is very therapeutic. I've done many a wardrobe detox with uses where I'm like, I think I'll keep no. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm never going to wear that again. But actually afterwards you feel you can do this on your own as well, can't you? I mean, you just feel like, wow, okay, there's a lot of clutter gone and there's some space there then for new things.
Exactly. And then I think you've got to say to yourself, are you still selecting the same pieces as you did select when you were in not a happy place? When you go shopping, do you think, okay, all right, so I've got this in blue. Oh, I may as well have it in red. Oh, I may as well have it. Do you actually look at your wardrobe and go, gee, I didn't realize I had so many pieces the same? So that's one thing that has got to stop, which helps you when you are looking at your wardrobe. You think, hang on a minute, I've got one of those there and I've got them the same. And how did I even think that I was going to buy the same garments? But people do the same similar shapes.
Yeah. Now, guys, what do you find your biggest challenges with your wardrobe are? I mean, do pop them in the chat for Suze. It'd be interesting to find out, are you someone that's got loads of, black skirts or, certain style of things? And is it scary sometimes to try new things? I mean, trying a new style. I mean, sometimes Suze, on my shopping trips with Suze, we go and she'll say, oh, try this. And I'll look at it and think, oh, my goodness, I would not be seen dead in that. And she goes, try it. I try it on. And, more times than not, I'm going, oh my God, I really like it. It does actually work.
Exactly. You see, this is the thing about dressing, going out with somebody who has been doing it for so long that you could, a stylist that will work with you, because they make you try on things that you maybe not necessarily would do normally. And the wow, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm looking at scenario is the goosebump moment. That's what makes you realize that you can reinvent the way you look. You're not the same person necessarily as you were beforehand in your previous life. This is new beginnings. So this is what's really the most empowering part of it, is that you can literally make yourself anything that you want to. The things you have to remember, the colors, working with colors that most suit, the shapes that most suit your body shape. So shape of garments that most suit your body shape. Remembering alterations is a great way of making them fit you. If there's a little bit of, if you want to show more of your waist or whatever it may be. So I think that's really important, is to try on different things. It costs nothing apart from time.
Last bit on here though, she hates shopping. That's why everything in her wardrobe is so old.
That's why you call me and I will help you. I also feel I need to go back to Stephen, who we've left, who was the guy since separation, just t-shirts and jeans. The interest has gone. Now this is obviously I want you to find that interest in dressing again. I want you to go out and buy a new pair of jeans. Go and buy a really cool dark pair of denim jeans that are nice and narrow at the bottom, a really great pair of Chelsea boots and a good shirt. Nothing else. Then see how you feel when you put on the jeans, the t-shirt, the things you've been wearing forever, put on the new pieces. Yes, they are the same category as the pieces you've already got, but you'll see and feel the difference. Do that as an exercise for yourself. And literally it can be inexpensive to still get the same joy. Muted.
Sorry, really good advice, Suze. And I was just saying, when you go shopping with Suze, it's really fun, but you don't actually have to go out, because there's other ways you've done it where you look at what, you get the idea and the brief from the client, and then you go and you do the online shopping and you send them links to things from the online. So you can do it, Isabel, from home. You don't need to go anywhere.
Oh, no, you don't need to go anywhere. I have a service that caters for everybody around the world, wherever they may be. And before I see anybody, I have a form to fill in so I can get to know a little bit about you. And then on the form, there's a link to put up to 10 full length photographs, so I can see your body shape, your colouring, everything. And then I can style you from those photographs. So whether we're shopping together, and I pre-select everything before we shop, so that all that horrible dredging groundwork is done for you. You just meet me and there's a selection already to try. It could be in one store in a private room, or it could be multi-shops all over or wherever in the high street. But if you are a kind of person that doesn't want to go out, or you live in far away, or even in another country, I can make a style directory for you, specifically bespoke for you, your body shape, your budget, and send you links with all the garments, send you links. You click on the link, it takes you straight to the website, and you buy, and it comes straight to your home.
Easy and lots of fun. So let's read through some of these, because it's brilliant. I love the interaction, guys. Thanks for dropping your comments in the chat. So Susan says she finds trousers and skirts not that easy to find, but blouses and shirts really, she finds them quite easily. And then we've got Hilary says, tend to only wear a small selection of my wardrobe, no idea about colors or shapes. So I mean, colors, Susan, let's talk a bit about that, because colors can really boost your mood, can't they?
Colours certainly can completely change your skin tone, can make your eyes shine. And I personally, I know a lot of people like it, but personally, I don't believe in saying that you can only wear these specific colours. The colour determining exactly which colours you can wear is really not my thing, because somebody can say, don't wear red, whatever happens, don't wear red. But if you add a bit of white in, or you add a bit of another colour, a bit of purple, a bit of blue in, the colour completely changes, but it's still under the same heading of red. So experiment, try on different things. There's a multitude of colours out there, of tonal colours that you can try, that maybe that one wouldn't be good, but that one would be good. it goes on and on and on. But you will see, if nothing changes in your eyes when you try these colors on, then it's not right for you. If it brings you a dullness, then it's not right for you. If it makes you shine and brings brightness, here's an example of, say, a red. This is a really harsh red, very, very harsh. No good for me. I've almost looked, a little ill. But if I put some other color into it and added different, even a texture, which is another thing that people don't consider within a color. If you have a texture on a fabric, it's a whole other ball game again. So it's all about trying, experimenting and trying.
So right, and I love that about the different colors, because there's so many types of blues, as you just showed us. Andrea says that, what happens if you're going through the menopause and you want to look fashionable, but then how do you know what's age appropriate? It can be difficult, can't it? It can be difficult.
Hello, of course. But you know what? We women are not going to let the menopause be an excuse for us not succeeding in anything. In my opinion, trust me, I'm there and I'm living it. And yes, your skin tone can change. Therefore, maybe you need to readdress your makeup, bring yourself back up to a good place, and that you're shining again. And your hair color, the menopause, if it changes your skin tone, again, you can look at your hair color. That can be incredible, have incredible effects. So then you'll go down, then you'll say, right, what are the colors that work with me? Do I need a cotton next to my skin? Am I sweating a lot? Am I feeling constrained? Women want to just, do you want something that tucks in? Do you want something that lets your skin breathe? Do you want a quick getaway, as in, do you want to go wear layers so that if you do have a hot flush, you can take things off? Trust me, there is a way around it all.
Definitely is. Caroline says, I keep putting off buying jeans until I lose weight and never lose weight.
Then buy jeans the weight you are now. A boyfriend jean is a great jean to wear if you are a bit heavier. It depends where the weight is distributed. If you're lucky enough to have slim legs, you get away with a lot with jeans. But buy them now, because I'm not talking about buying a pair of designer jeans. Just go to Uniqlo, go online, go to Gap, just buy them now. Don't even think about skinny jeans right now, but in a few months' time, you may be happy to do that shape, but buy now. And remember, back again, if you buy the boyfriend jeans, you roll up the bottom so it looks super cool.
Absolutely. I love a pair of boyfriend jeans. Okay, and Isabel says she needs a frock for her daughter's graduation, so she'll be in touch, Sue, which is great. She's great.
Well, just while you're saying that, I just wanted to mention also, obviously, for all of the people that are involved in today, I would be very happy to give a discount of £95 off my fee, my normal fee, which we can talk about that in a minute.
Brilliant. Thanks, Suze. That's very kind of you. Right, now, going on a date can be very scary anyway, because you're going on a date. If you haven't been on a date has anyone here been dating? Just pop out why, if you've been dating or you're thinking about dating, because what do you wear, Suze, for a first date? Because in the old days, when we went on dates, maybe people haven't dated for a long time. In the old days, we used to get dressed up for a date, didn't we? We used to think, right, okay, I'll put a little dress on and heels and some nice earrings. Nowadays,
it has changed. It really has. I think the most important thing is that you kind of need to have an idea where you're going. Obviously, if it's a surprise and they say, right, I'm picking you up at such and such a time, and I'm taking you as a surprise, then that's another thing. Everything is very casual now. It's much more casual than it's ever been before. Obviously, you're not going to go to a private club or a very expensive restaurant in your trainers and jeans, but you'll probably find that there's somebody in there that is. But so you've got to really think about how it makes you feel good by dressing for a date. And if that does mean that you're putting heels on, then put those heels on. If it does mean that you want to wear something, obviously we're going back to the old-fashioned rules, is too low and too short is not happening. You can go short or high, but don't do the two together. You want to make the right impression straight away, because that first impression is crucial. And it could be that it's a job interview, or it could be that it's a date. Whichever way, you still want to walk in a room, and what anybody says, we all know that we're already making an opinion of somebody as soon as they walk into a room. So you want to make sure that your first impression is phenomenal. So let's start by thinking about clothes that make you feel happy. Clothes you don't want to be fidgeting all night. You want to get dressed and you want to forget about the fact that you're looking amazing and then just have a great time. So you want to have comfort. So you don't want to wear anything where the neckline is too low, or the button is gaping, or you know you've got to keep your jacket on because you can see that your bra's coming out your bra here, or whatever it may be. It's just got to be right so that you can relax to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I think you've got to feel comfortable to be you. You know, don't try and be something you're not. Just be you, because obviously, especially on a first date, you don't want to be giving any false impressions here, because ultimately, if it goes further, they're going to find out. So, you know, I think, you know, quite often like a pair of jeans with a pair of heels can dress up jeans sometimes.
Yeah.
Can't they? It can be really casual, or you could wear, you know, something, you know, jewelry. Like I've just put this on, which is something just dress it up with a ring or something like that.
I was just going to say the smallest detail makes the difference from daytime to evening. And it could be that you're just wearing a regular shirt for the day, flat shoes for the day, trainers in the day, but actually what you're wearing underneath is a great date outfit. So you may want to pull on those fabulous boots that you've been looking at for ages, but you haven't had anywhere to wear them. Or it may be that you put on an amazing brooch on a jacket, or if that's too much, you know, you could even go smaller. It may be that I've just got a few bits here without you looking at the back of my chair. You know, it may be that you just want to do something like that. And already you think, actually, there's the difference. I am now going out. I'm going out on a date. I'm looking fabulous and I'm going to make it work. So those accessories are really crucial. Think about your handbag. Men, think about your shoes. Make sure they're clean. Think about your socks. Make sure that they're not bright yellow for when you cross your legs and you're looking great. You know, those small details. Make sure your nails are clean. Make sure, and I hate to sound like I'm not patronizing anybody, but these are things that you think, I'm in such a hurry, and now I've got to go. Are your nails chipped? Have you got nail varnish on, or that your nails are chipped? That small little detail. Am I going to bother putting on a really funky ring? That takes you on a date. Doesn't take you to the supermarket necessarily or school run, but it's that small detail that's so important.
Rocket in the supermarket too, Suze. You never know who you're going to meet.
No, this is true. This is true.
And I mean, I know some people have said yes, and I know someone's got a date this Saturday, woohoo, and then others of you are saying no way in capitals or God no. But you know, this is the thing. People say to me, Sara, when is a good time to get back out there? And, you know, it's really, you've got to decide at some point to step up. You know, again, if you're going along in life, always looking in the rear view mirror, you know, you're going to crash. We need to get some fun back in, guys. We need to get some sparkle back in. And we're not talking about meeting Mr. or Miss Right. We're just talking about Mr. or Miss Right now. Someone to go for a drink with, someone to just go out and have that sort of awkward first conversation with. You know, just getting back out there again is going to really start opening up, putting more colour, as we were talking about right at the beginning, more colour on that canvas, or shining a light into that darkness, even if it just gives you some horror stories to tell your friends about who are happily married, or maybe not so happily married. You know, there's a lot of benefit from just getting back out there and starting to meet new people.
And also just to go on a date, making yourself look fabulous just to go through the process is so important, just to get your confidence and self-esteem, that you can look in the mirror and go, you know what, I like that person I'm looking at.
That's important. As Jenny says here, dressing good makes you feel good from the inside out. So that's very, very true. Very, very true. And Hayley says it also helps you work out what you like and want in a future partner. So yeah, very exciting, guys. So Suze, how can people find out more about you? Where do we go to find you?
So my website is suzannebernie.com. My Instagram is at Suzanne Bernie Stylist. Anybody wants to email me with specifics, situation or requests, it's hello@suzannebernie.com. My normal rate, so that you all know, guys, is my half a day is $4.95 and a full day is $5.95. There is a difference in a lot of hours in between, but I believe in being fair to everybody, to be honest with you. So and your people with you today will have a 95% discount. 95 that'll be interesting. £95 discount.
That's amazing. Thank you.
No problem at all.
So, I mean, that's to have Suze either for the day or half day. And
then for a wardrobe, sorry, Sara, then for a wardrobe detox, that's the $4.95 for me. And it's anything up to a 4-hour service, which, trust me, goes so fast. And that I come to your home and go through every single thing you have. Well, you wear, which don't make that sound scary. The amount of people I say, oh my God, what say to me, what shall I do before you arrive? Do I clean my wardrobe before you arrive? No, you do nothing. You sit back, you relax, and you see how amazing you can look.
I love it. Suze hangs everything back up for you, which is so nice. It's like her to live in the corner of my bedroom permanently. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Suze. People are asking here, where are you based, Suze?
I'm based in London, but I travel everywhere, all over the world and London and England. So yeah, and don't be worried that I will only work with you if you have a budget of a certain amount to spend on clothes. I can work to any budget and have worked from a budget of £250 to £50,000. So honestly, it's all about getting it right for you, your body shape, your colouring, your lifestyle, and your budget.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Suze. You have brought smiles to our faces and some sparkle to our retreat. So thank you so much for joining us.
More than welcome. It was an absolute pleasure. And as I say, if anybody has any questions that they didn't get a chance to ask now, feel free to email me. I'd be delighted to help.
Brilliant. Thank you, Susan. We shared your details in the chat, so everyone will be in touch.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye,
Thanks,
guys. Bye.
Bye. Wow. So again, I love Sue. She's been one of my friends for a long time, and her husband is an amazing hairstylist as well. If you need a new hairstylist, she's again part of the revamp. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to show you guys. So by bringing in these people, like, they're just experts in their field. They're doing their thing and very different. I mean, James and Claire, obviously, health, well-being, mindset, getting the most out, and you can just feel their energy, can't you, coming off the screen, the two of them. And then, yeah, they're brilliant in person. I have to tell you that. I mean, if you think that was buzzy in person, it's mind-blowing. And then obviously Natalie, really phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how she keeps so calm. I certainly don't when we talk about those topics, but she's making a difference for so many people. And then Suze with her sparkle, and yeah, it's just a fun day out anyway with Suze. It's always good fun, and you feel $1 million by the end of it. So lots of things there to choose from. Please do, like, I'm going to stay and take your questions. My coaches are going to come on soon, and they're going to help with some of your questions too. But if you've got something going on right now you want me to help you with, do put it in the chat, because I'll take your questions now and we'll go through them and we'll pick them apart. And if you have got some challenges, if you're not sure, you know, do jump on now, because this is your chance to get the most from this. And I really wanted to put this on to say, look, you are not alone. As you've seen, we had over 400 people register, I think, for this event today. There are so many people that need, that are going through tough times with breakups, so many people that are struggling, moving on. The new year is always a tough time anyway, but with everything else that's going on in society, plus your breakups, I know how difficult it is. So, that's why I wanted to put this on, to show you what, that you can do this. You're not alone, and it's small steps can really change your life. And I think you know, the fabulous session with Hayley, Sara and Jenny earlier was brilliant, because it showed you just, you know, real people with their own stuff going on have turned their lives around using these tools, using these things, putting them into practice. One of the things that, like, obviously I train people to become breakup and divorce coaches in the International Divorce Centre of Excellence. That's my training school. And, you know, I mean, I spend a lot of time with the guys. We're all on Zoom meetings every week together, talking and training and diving into how to use those tools with clients. But actually, it's turning your pain into power and working through the journey. It's so empowering. You know, if you just put into place maybe the flip that I talked about earlier, the changing your ex's name for some of you, the just understanding where you think you are in the loss cycle. And so you know where you've been, so you can start powering through, using the breakup bucket list to throw some color onto the blank canvas and shining some light into those sort of black holes that you said at the beginning. I'd be really interested as well, right? What have you found most useful from the retreat? Because that feedback again for me really helps. So if you could all just drop down where you found the most benefit, what's really resonated and what you're taking away from today, that would be really helpful too. Right, let's have a look at some of the questions. Isabel says, everyone's been great in different ways. Lou says, for me, the self-care and how to neutralize some areas around my ex. Yeah, that's always really useful. And also, you know, these are transferable skills, right? You might have a really difficult boss or a mother-in-law or, you know, whatever it is. You might have people in your life that just, like, what I call energy vampires. Like, you walk in the room, you sort of come out like a deflated balloon thinking, well, what happened now? I went around to say hi and now I feel like crap. Well, those people we have to be careful around. But again, we can't control them. I can't control your ex. We can't control these people, anyone, but we can control how we respond to it. And we can be prepared, which is going to help. I always talk about zipping up your Teflon suit and having it around you, visualizing it before you go into a difficult situation. So you know they're going to make little barbed comments, or they might put me down, or they might try and make you feel uncomfortable. When you know that's going to happen and you've zipped up your Teflon suit, it all just runs off you. Okay, it can't stick to you. It's not going to hurt you. It runs off. So you're sort of protected from it. And also, when you're expecting it, you can play the game of, let's see what comments they throw at me today. And you can, in your little head, just check off on your list. Like, there you go. There's a compliment. It's not really a compliment. There's the put down. Was expecting at least two. Oh, yeah, there's another one. Okay, there's two of those. Oh, yeah, they've put me down. They've compared me to so-and-so. Mentioned my weight. Okay, brilliant. You know, and you can go through the checklist. Once you start to disassociate by almost having it as like a game, like, let's see, you know, like when you're in a kid in the back of the car, my mum used to give me this, you know, I Spy thing for you to keep me quiet. Like, right, tick off all the traffic lights and everything as you see it, you know, and just keep me quiet, be checking it off. But, you know, it's those sort of things we can do ourselves, taking control back and disassociating by saying, I'm just going to look from here and see, right, okay, what's going on with your toxic ex? This is brilliant. Are they gaslighting? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Are they lying? Oh, yeah, there's a lie. Oh, are they putting me down? Yeah. Okay. They've been confusing. There you go. That's got me going, well, hang on. Don't need to go down that path. It's just tick the box for confusing behavior. Next. So, yeah, as you go through, this is going to help you strengthen you because you're seeing it for what it is. And so sometimes when you split up, you get that physical distance. You don't get that emotional distance. But these checklists will help you disassociate even when you're in their presence. B says, if custody hasn't been agreed in court, but you're essentially solo parenting, but you die, do the children automatically go to this strange toxic ex-parent? Okay, this is where a will comes in, and you can put your wishes in there. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't give legal advice, but from my own experience, you can nominate somebody that you would like to have as guardians if you were to die and your ex were to die. And then you can put a letter of your wishes in there, which may include, even if they're not dead, this is what I would prefer. Now, again, you have to take legal advice on that, but there are things you can do. They're not legally binding, though, I don't think. But again, it depends on your specific situation. So getting some good legal advice from someone that does wills will help you with that. And if you haven't changed your will since you were married or you don't have one, you can get them done really cheaply. But I would strongly advise, especially if you've got kids, that you do that. How do you move on and heal if your ex is still living in the house? Said he'd be moving out, but then changed his mind. Wow. I mean, I don't know whether you're going through the divorce or whatever. I don't think this is forever, right? But I don't know, can't remember. But from that, if you do have to spend time in the house with your ex, then I always advise you to create your own safe space somewhere in the house where you can shut the door and it's yours, okay? And no one interrupts you. No, I mean, obviously you can't control what your ex is going to do, but you don't have to answer the door. So having somewhere where you can go that's just for you, and everybody knowing that when you go into that space, you're not to be disturbed, or, you know, that it's not for anybody else to go in. That might mean having a lock and key for it, whatever, but having that safe space. So not necessarily sharing a bathroom if you can avoid it, those kind of things where it can, you know, you're sort of still in that personal space, separating out your personal space and making sure yours is kept away. And again, if you've got personal things that you don't want your ex to be seeing, then if you do live in the same house and they're difficult, I would advise keeping them with somebody else. Okay, let's see what else is coming through. People like Natalie, yeah, she was good. Dial down the emotions, and Natalie's information were insightful. Thank you all. A great afternoon. You're very welcome. The beginning part of this, to stop talking about the past, but to focus and direct the conversation to the future. Yeah. Now, guys, this is like a muscle when you go to the gym. I've shared a lot. The coaches have shared a lot. Everyone shared a lot of advice today and tips. Don't beat yourself up. When you go back out into the real world, things are going to happen and you're going to go back to what you've known, because we're wired to do things in a certain way. So the coping strategies you've learned for when your ex phones you is still going to be the same for a while. Okay. I mean, changing their ringtone, filing their WhatsApp messages and archives, so you choose when you go in and out and checking them. That's all good for you guys. That's all going to help you. But there are going to be times where you do get upset. There's going to be times where you do fall apart. And the key is here not to take that on as you're failing and to give up. It's like when we go to the gym, we've got to build that muscle. It's the first rep's okay when you're lifting a weight. It's the 10th, the 11th, the 12th where you're really getting that burn, but that is actually where the growth comes. So this is what we need to hold on to, is that when you're practicing these tools, just even being aware, oh God, I didn't do it and I could have done. You know, think about things like, you know, when is the most hard time for you? A lot of people, it's like the first thing in the morning, you wake up and then it's like a tsunami. It just hits you like, oh God, yeah, I woke up thinking, and it's like, oh, I'm dealing with this and I should hear from his lawyers today. And this is going to, and then you get caught up into that anxiety. My advice is to change the area, the times of day when it really sticks for you. Change your routine up, do something different. Don't wake up listening to the news. It's going to depress you to get going. You know, put on your favorite song. You know, start a new routine that when you get up in the morning, there's something by your bed that reminds you to focus on the one thing that is the most, you know, makes you most grateful. Or, you know, have some happy music on. Or, you know, right, get up, put on your tracksuit and out the door to go for a walk. You know, try and change it. Those sticking points, take control over them, do something differently. Remember, you're going to think, oh, I can hear Sara's voice going, I've got to get up and do 5 star jumps. I just want to stay in bed. But that's okay. You're remembering, you're consciously aware, and then we have to follow through. You're going to have to push that comfort zone out to make these changes, okay? But those things are going to make a big difference. All very helpful in your book, Sara. I like to revisit, flip it. So yeah, that's a good one. And I'm learning to do this and it helps. Wonderful retreat. Thank you all. Brilliant. So look, thank you to everyone. It's been very informative and uplifting. Unfortunately, I have to go to work. What really resonated was the loss cycle and coping with heartbreak. She's got my book Uncoupling. Thank you. I'm sure that will help. It's also available as an audio if people aren't really into reading. That's that one, Uncoupling there. I'm keen to move forward, want to make changes to my wardrobe. Yay, house decorations, plan holidays. But I'm expecting my ex to criticize me for spending money. Don't want to have to wait until there's a financial settlement. Okay, this doesn't cost any money to go around your house and just notice where you don't like stuff, like where it resonates, it's not good. So you might have a photograph, for example, and you look at it, oh, that reminds me of this or reminds me of that. I'm assuming you don't have pictures of your ex in your house, but if you do, it might be better off in the kids' bedrooms, whatever. I remember a social worker coming around to my house once and saying, well, there's no pictures of your ex in your house. And I was like, are you mad? Why Would I have a picture of my ex in my house? I mean, in my son's bedroom there are, but not in my living room. Oh, I think that'd be a positive step forward. Mary, I think you know what you're talking about. But okay, thanks. You know, I mean, you've got to do what works for you. Okay, so it's your house, it's your safe space. I would love it if when you walk in the front door, it feels like it's giving you a little hug. So whether it's fresh flowers, which for me make a massive difference to a room, maybe it's putting some happy photos up. You know, I love photos, even like the ones where your hair's all over the place, you don't look your best, but everyone's laughing and smiling. And, you know, those rides at Chessington World of Adventures or whatever, where you're soaked through to the skin, everyone's just laughing. Having those around your house, just remind you of the good times, remind you to feel good. Little tips like your ringtone. My ringtone is Happy by Pharrell, which is embarrassing for my son. He's 13. He thinks it's the most embarrassing thing in the world when we're going around the shop and it goes off. I love it. It makes me happy. So that's cool for me. But, you know, what works for you? So it doesn't have to cost money to do some of these things, Tara. You can just start going through your house and changing things up, moving things around, just, you know, even just breaking up your sofa where your ex maybe used to sit and moving it round into a different formation, putting the forks where the spoons were. Like little things can energetically make a big shift in your house and make you feel a lot better. Kerry says, how do you see the changes in April with no blame impacting on divorce? So in April, they're bringing in the no fault divorce law as legislation, so it will actually start. So basically that means that when you file for divorce at the moment, you have to blame one person, you have to give compelling evidence, and the judge decides whether on that evidence you're allowed to divorce or not. And as we know, sometimes they say it's not enough. Again, shocking and horrific, but there we go. So this is going to change all that. So you don't have to start World War III. You can just put your divorce petition in and just say, well, it didn't really, you know, we're out, and you put it in together, so there's no blame. And I think it's going to make a massive positive difference to most people, Kerry, because divorce is toxic enough anyway. Even the most amicable divorces have to go through this. You know, so it always, you know, who's going to put the horrible stuff in about the other person is always a horrible conversation, and someone always comes out slightly worse. So this puts it all on an even pegging. It gets away from that aggressive nature of divorce, which is like combative all the time. And, you know, it's just generally going to be hopefully a lot better. And it's going to be better in toxic relationships as well, because then accusing your perpetrator of the things that they've done is just going to make things a lot worse in the form seeing it. It can aggravate a situation. So, yeah, it may mean we get more divorces, but at least they'll be happier. Anyway, happier divorces. Right. We'll work on not seeing myself as a failure. You're definitely not a failure. The thing is, guys, sometimes we can be our own worst critic, and it's time to stop now. It's time to stop, because if you don't love yourself, then it's going to be very hard for anyone else to. Okay, and nobody's perfect. Okay, no one's life is all perfect, no matter what social media says. It's not. Okay, behind the scenes, they've got troubles. If they divorce a difficult person, they're still going to be difficult. Okay, you know, my ex gives me great content for every webinar I do on pretty much a weekly basis, and I'm very grateful to him for that. You see how I flipped it? You know, and you know, he's helped me help a lot of people. So ultimately, we've always got to look for the good, but that adversity you go through will make you stronger if you're learning from it. And it's not about you not being good enough. You are good enough just the way you are. Okay. And the kinder you are to yourself, the more opportunities will start to open up. So please don't beat yourselves up. Just, we are where we are. We can't change it, but we can change how we move forward. Yeah. And, you know, you do need to take time out to recover emotionally. It's really important. With the flipper, I'm going to send you, or if you register for this, I will send you the recording so you've got it, you can go through it. But someone's asking me about flip it. That's when you look for the good in any situation. Even when you really can't see any good, there will be some good in there. Yeah, from like Suze's cheery ending. Okay, let's see, any other questions in there? So guys, remember, the coaches are going to stay on. If you've got any other questions you want them to help you with, they will be here. They are offering free discovery calls with them, so do take them up on it. I mean, they're amazing. They've been through where you've been, you've walked in your shoes. You've seen today, they've been phenomenal behind the scenes. And you know, I have other coaches on the booking page. I know Jenny's been sharing the link. Angela's on here as well. She's been here the whole time. She's also one of my coaches. We've got amazing people, and they're all different personalities, all come through, as you saw, different walks of life. So find someone that really resonates with you, because they can really hold your hand and make a difference. And it's good for you. It's self-care. It's looking after yourself. Obviously, if you want to come to one of my live retreats, super excited. My coaches will be there too to support you through. So that's coming up. Do check the link for that, or it's on my website, saradavison.com. And what else? Kerry says, why the hell would you still have photos of your ex? They went 24 hours after he left. Not even that, Kerry. Not even that. Yeah, perfect. I don't know, but this is that whole warp system that Natalie is talking about. If social workers will get involved, they'll start saying, oh, well, this is high conflict. It's like, it's not high conflict. It's just this person wasn't very nice to me. Lots of thanks from everybody. Great suggestions. I mean, thank you guys for playing full out. You've been amazing. You've really been amazing. Couldn't do these retreats without you. So thank you for being part of it. Do stay on and check out with my coaches. They're all there now. Guys, do you want to come on? Let's see. What was the narcissistic book? That was Rachel Watson, How to Annihilate a Narcissist in the Family Courts. Rachel Watson. It is available on Amazon, because that's where I get my copies from, and I give them to my clients. She's brilliant. But that she does blogs as well. Rachel Watson blog. I think it's under Rachel Watson Books is her website as well. So go and check those out. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Hi, guys. They're just unmuting themselves. Brilliant. Well, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of my coaches. Do ask them anything. They're here to deep dive with you into whatever you need. And if you'd like their help, then you know where they are. Thank you so much for being such an amazing audience, and for taking part and participating. Remember, you can do this. You're not alone. And there's lots of support out there to help you through. So lots of love, lots of hugs. And I'll see you all very soon.